Chapter 2070. She had just come out of seclusion and refined the pure young immortal sword, and in the blink of an eye, she had a matching immortal sword scabbard. Sure Shanshan was overjoyed. If it weren't for the presence of so many people, Sure Shanshan's face wouldn't be able to let go. She might have already gone up and left a kiss for her husband. In front of outsiders, Sure Shanshan was a cold and proud plum fairy, but in front of her husband, she was still his beloved wife. The door was already open, and now it was time for everyone to enter. The women were a little impatient. After waiting for more than half a year, it was finally time to taste their long-cherished wish. Standing in front of the door, Yang Chen suddenly hesitated. There were two super magic treasures in the front hall of the second floor, the Immortal Sword and the super large cave mansion. The Immortal Sword was the key to open the door of the third floor. Then what was the super large cave mansion? Yang Chen didn't think that this immortal monarch's arrangement was an accidental misunderstanding. This could only mean that everything had a purpose. It depended on whether people could understand his arrangement or not. What was the use of the super large cave mansion? To accommodate many people? Or was it just like the last time, it was actually used to resist a super attack? At the thought of the latter possibility, Yang Chen's whole body turned cold. What kind of terrifying attack would need to be resisted by a super-large cave mansion with a radius of 3 million miles? If it was really as he guessed, as long as he entered this door, he would definitely encounter an unimaginable terrifying attack. If the person who came only found that the immortal sword opened the door, but did not find the super-large cave mansion, then even if a Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal came in, there would only be a dead end. When the women saw Yang Chen stop at the door, they all felt very strange. After asking, the women also felt a little scared. Fortunately, her husband was thoughtful. If he went in without any hesitation, who knew what kind of terrifying consequences he would encounter? This was clearly a huge chain of events. It seemed simple, but in fact, it was interconnected. If there was a place that he didn't think of, then the outcome would probably be very different. What Yang Chen was most worried about now was that there were more than 2 super magic treasures in the front hall. If there was a third one, it would probably be a disaster for his family. After all, Yang Chen hadn't seen all of the goods sold by the Poor Acid Pavilion and the Lost Star Pavilion. It was inevitable that he would miss something. Even if there was a super large cave dwelling that could save his life, it would be a bit of a fool's dream if he wanted to advance further. It's just that his footsteps had already arrived, and then he stopped because he was worried that there might be a third magic weapon. Not to mention the women, even Yang Chen himself felt a little unwilling. After thinking about it, Yang Chen decided to go in. After all, just as Yang Chen had thought, the super-huge cave residence was definitely more than enough to protect itself. If the situation Yang Chen described really happened, the worst that could happen was that they wouldn't be able to advance to the next level. However, if they didn't take a look, they wouldn't be willing to do so. Ling, prepare the Mountain River geographical map. Everyone will hide in it. Yang Chen finally ordered Gong Sunling and prepared to enter the third floor. The supergiant Immortal's cave had been refined by the Mountain River geographical map, and with Yang Chen's knowledge, even if the Mountain River geographical map has not yet completely refined the Super Immortal's cave, the protection power was better than that of the Super Immortal's cave. In particular, the Mountain River geographical map was Gong Sunling's life source magic weapon, and there was also Yang Chen's third primordial spirit as the weapon spirit. When necessary, the husband and wife could control the Mountain River geographical map at the same time, which would increase their safety. The women obediently entered the Mountain River geographical map, and then watched Gong Sunling control the Mountain River geographical map to walk into the portal of the third floor. As if to prove Yang Chen's worries, Gong Sunling had just controlled the Mountain River geographical map to enter the third floor, and the portal behind her slammed shut, and then the attack like a heavenly tribulation began directly. Boom! A thunderbolt directly exploded on the Mountain River geographical map. The land of tens of thousands of miles in the mountain river geographical map was directly shaken and turned into powder. After the first, it was followed by the second, the third, as if there was no end. In the mountain river geographical map, the land of tens of thousands of miles had been completely turned into the finest powder, and all the creatures on that land were the same. This is the heavenly tribulation. Yang Chun and the third primordial spirit reacted at the same time. This was not an ordinary attack at all, it was simply a heaven immortal tribulation. Yes, it was the heaven immortal tribulation that the cultivators of the spiritual world had to undergo when they wanted to ascend, but the heavenly tribulation in this place was more than 10 times stronger than the ordinary heaven immortal tribulation. Ordinary cultivators of the spiritual world, if they encountered 10 times the heaven immortal tribulation, would definitely die. Probably only cultivators above the 5th grade of Xian Immortal could barely withstand such an attack. But the problem was that this was a heaven immortal tribulation. Once a Xian Immortal Master passed the heaven immortal tribulation, what awaited him was not to smoothly enter the depths of the tomb, but to immediately ascend to the immortal world. If he wanted to see the secrets of the tomb, he would probably not have the chance again. Only by relying on a super magic treasure that had not reached the level of ascension could one safely wait for the opportunity to enter the next level. This was clearly a cave-like magic treasure. How could there be a heaven immortal tribulation here? Yang Chun did not think about this problem for the time being. He focused on resisting the heaven immortal tribulation with the third primordial spirit. The reason why he was together with the third primordial spirit was because Yang Chun had a selfish motive. Yang Chun's Dragon Clan magic treasure, the Golden Bell, was only half refined so far. Last time, Yang Chun also relied on the power of the heaven immortal tribulation to achieve such an achievement. But the power of the heaven immortal tribulation last time was normal, far less than the current 10 times power. Wouldn't it be a pity if it was wasted on destroying the super cave abode? After enduring 3 heaven immortal tribulations, Yang Chun reacted and began to cooperate with the third primordial spirit. As soon as the third primordial spirit suffered the attack, it immediately directed 1/10 of the heaven immortal tribulation's power to Yang Chun. Yang Chun took out the Golden Bell and continued to use the heaven immortal tribulation's power to refine it. 1/10 of the power was the power of an ordinary heaven immortal tribulation, which was more than enough for Yang Chun to bear. Next, it would slowly strengthen until it reached the limit that Yang Chun could bear. After a few consecutive times, the third primordial spirit had given Yang Chun half of the heaven immortal tribulation's power. At this point, Yang Chun also found it a little difficult to deal with it, and he should have reached his limit. The heaven immortal tribulation was a heaven immortal tribulation. Compared with the ordinary human immortal tribulation, the earth immortal tribulation contained more powerful and terrifying power. But for Yang Chun, who had already seen the golden immortal tribulation, it was an excellent tonic for the Golden Bell. In a short while, the 10 times the heaven immortal tribulation had passed through 99 heaven immortal tribulations. Under normal circumstances, this situation was considered a success. But here, it was not the end. What followed was the Xian immortal tribulation, which was also the same as the heaven immortal tribulation, 10 times the heaven immortal tribulation. In this way, Yang Chun and the third primordial spirit had to work harder and more difficult. Chapter 2071. There was nothing but a vast expanse of white land outside with the naked eye. No one dared to use their divine sense to explore. Gong Sunling just urged the geographical map to find the right direction and rushed inside frantically. She didn't know how far she had gone after such a long time. Looking at Yang Chun resisting the power of the heavenly tribulation with the geographical map, the women were a little moved and asked to share a part of it. This was not a difficult thing for the third primordial spirit. It only needed to distribute 1% of the power of the heavenly tribulation to the women. Besides, there were 42 women in total. If each of them shared 1% of the power, it would add up to almost half of the power. In this way, the power that the geographical map had to bear was very small. He didn't know what was going on. Yang Chen only discovered now that after entering the third layer, the golden immortal tribulation in his sea of consciousness stopped disturbing him. Yang Chen was able to control the golden bell to absorb the power of the tribulation. After the first heaven immortal tribulation was easily passed, the next Xian immortal tribulation was not so easy. At this point, the space in the mountain river geographical map was broken piece by piece, and it was a scene of devastation. However, the third primordial spirit still had a trump card, that was more than 1 million cultivators and more than 20 billion natives. The terrifying power was distributed bit by bit, and everyone bore a part of the pressure that they could bear. No matter how terrifying the Xian immortal tribulation was, under the joint efforts of hundreds of Xian immortal masters, millions of cultivators and nearly 30 billion natives, they still survived. Even if it was the Xian immortal tribulation, only the first few destroyed a part of the space. Most of the space in the geographical map was still intact. However, the cultivators in the geographical map were blessed. Everyone, including Yang Chen's family, felt the power of the heaven immortal tribulation more or less. This had immeasurable benefits for their future cultivation. After surviving the 999 profound immortal tribulation, Gongsun Ling suddenly found that there was a pause in the mountain river geographical map, and there was no road ahead. There was no heavenly tribulation falling from the sky. Gong Sunling gathered her courage and released a trace of divine sense to explore. She found that she was already in another manner. It was a beautiful place, and there was no sign of the horror of the heavenly tribulation. "Husband, we're here." After Gong Sunling gave Yang Chen a smile, she smiled and said, "It should be the real third floor." As soon as his voice fell, a powerful energy surged from outside the mountain river geographical map. The part of the mountain river geographical map that had been destroyed before, under the effect of this magical energy, quickly recovered, and soon it was as good as before. That was not all. There was still a lot of this energy. The third primordial soul immediately began to control this energy to refine the super-large cave abode. In just a short while, the super cave abode of 3 million kilometers had been refined by about 100,000 kilometers before it stopped. Yang Chen communicated with his third primordial spirit and silently estimated that the previous heaven immortal tribulation and Xian immortal tribulation would probably be able to destroy most of the cave abode, leaving only the central part, which was less than 100 miles long. This giant cave dwelling was basically for the fated person to enter the third floor from the second floor. As for the demon race creatures inside, it was just an extra bonus. After so many years, no one cared about them, so many of them were bred. After experiencing that kind of terrifying heavenly tribulation, those who were fated, lucky, and powerful would ascend, and those who were not fated, lucky, and powerful would turn into ashes. But under the protection of Yang Chen's family and the mountain river geographical map, most of the demon cultivators in the super-large cave abode successfully survived. Perhaps this was another surprise. Yang Chen's main gain was that the process of refining the golden bell had been completed by almost 90%. As long as he experienced another heavenly tribulation, he could completely integrate the golden bell into his body. In the past, Brother Li Qing estimated that Yang Chen would have to experience 3 to 4 heavenly tribulations before he could refine the golden bell. He didn't expect that he would have such a result after experiencing it once. It was really a pleasant surprise. It was already very calm outside, so everyone carefully came out of the mountain river geographical map. It was strange to say that as soon as they arrived here, the golden immortal tribulation in Yang Chen's sea of consciousness immediately began to rage. This strange movement made Yang Chen have a different feeling about this tomb space. This was a larger manor, with all the facilities in it, all kinds of furniture and decorations, none of them were missing. After all, no one had ever come in here, so it would not be lost. However, this kind of arrangement gave Yang Chen the feeling that it was not a tomb at all. It was clearly prepared for the living, which was very strange. The place where they stopped was a huge yard. The yard was shaded by trees, and the pavilions, bridges, and flowing water could be seen from afar. It was a beautiful manor. The women released their spiritual awareness, but found that the manor was still empty. Could it be that the immortal Sir moved his favorite manor to the tomb after his death? Behind them was a gate, and outside the gate, they could clearly see a vast expanse of white land. Everyone understood that the area outside the gate should be the area where the heavenly tribulation raged. As long as they didn't go out, they would be safe in this manner. With the speed of Gong Xuanling's control of the mountain river geographical map, according to the time when the heavenly tribulation fell one by one, the area outside was at least 100,000 miles. If this was the case, this was another sect-level super-immortal cave mansion. Not far ahead was a hall, similar to the layout of the front hall on the second floor. Yang Chen looked at it and walked over there. The women also followed behind Yang Chen. In a dangerous place that no one had been to before, it was safer for everyone to gather together. When the spiritual awareness explored before, there was no one here, but when they got closer, everyone's expression changed drastically. In front of them, there were 2 rows of women in maid costumes standing neatly. They could avoid the spiritual awareness of the women. They were by no means ordinary powerhouses. Everyone stopped in their tracks and stared at the 2 teams of women vigilantly while waiting for their husbands' instructions. Yang Chen also saw those women, but he had a strange feeling in his heart. Those women didn't seem to be living people, at least they didn't have any vitality. They don't seem to be alive. Not only Yang Chen had this feeling, but even the women had the same feeling. After Sun Qingxue said a sentence, the other party didn't respond at all, and his body kept that position without moving. It seemed that he really wasn't a living person. Could it be a burial? A possibility flashed in Yang Chen's mind. He took a deep breath and took a few steps forward to take a closer look. Those women really weren't alive, but regardless of their figure, appearance, and clothes, they were simply lifelike. He didn't know how they became like this. Chapter 2072. There seemed to be only one possibility, and that was that these maids had used some kind of technique when they were alive to become what they were now. But in this case, weren't these maids a living statue? There were 8 maids standing side by side here. The women walked around in other places, and there was a burst of exclamations. In the entire manor, there were probably thousands of young and beautiful maids who had become like this, and their spiritual senses could not detect them, but they also had no vitality. It seemed that when the immortal monarch was buried, he buried all the maids in his entire residence with him. This feeling made Yang Chen very uncomfortable. Yang Chen cared a lot about the people around him, and he asked himself that even if he died unfortunately, he would not be willing to let any of his wives, concubines, and maids be buried with him. On the contrary, he hoped that they could live as well as possible, which was the greatest memorial for him. The person in front of him, however, buried all the maids who served him in the entire manor with him. Although this was normal in the eyes of the big shots, Yang Chen could not turn a blind eye to it. Perhaps this was the difference between Yang Chen and the big shots. Yang Chen's face was seen by all the women. Madame Fanghua asked carefully. After getting the answer, all the women were moved in their hearts. Their husband was deeply affectionate, and it was not in vain for them to be husband and wife. After sighing with emotion, everyone realized that there were no men in the entire manor, and all of them were living statues of the maids. It seemed that the immortal monarch himself was also a lecherous person, which was why he made such arrangements. But this was not surprising. Wasn't their husband the same? In the Dragon Palace, besides Yang Chen, which man was there? The maids were distributed everywhere in the manor, and at a glance, it was obvious that they were doing all kinds of work. Then, needless to say, the master was either in the main hall of the manor or in the master's bedroom in the back. Walking through one deep manor after another, Yang Chun and the women finally arrived at the main hall. The layout here was very elegant, and at a glance, it was the residence of a scholar. Thinking of the poems and songs on the second floor, the owner of this manor must be very fond of literature. There was no one in the main hall. Yang Chun and the others did not casually touch the furnishings. Yang Chen's family was not like the two shopkeepers who had no eyesight. That kind of locusts crossing the border could not be done. When they reached the backyard, they ran into trouble. At the same time, Yang Chen was sure that the owner of the manor was in the backyard. It was not accurate to say that it was troublesome. To be precise, it was a barrier, a transparent barrier. Everyone stopped in front of the barrier, their footsteps blocked, unable to advance any further. This barrier was very gentle, unlike the one that the Zhao family had set up in the core of the trial grounds. If one was not careful, they would be killed. This barrier only gently blocked everyone outside, not allowing anyone to casually enter. There was no other arrangement. Yang Chen reached out and touched the invisible but palpable barrier. No matter how he thought about it, it felt familiar, but he couldn't remember where he had seen this barrier before. The women were also thinking hard, but they had no clue. Even their husband couldn't tell the origin of this thing. They were probably also helpless. The heavenly tribulation outside clearly told everyone how terrifying the arrangement here was. No one dared to use violence to break this barrier. The eyes of the women could only focus on their husband to see if he had a solution. Yang Chen's mind was spinning. He thought of all kinds of barriers that he had seen in the immortal world, but none of them seemed to match the characteristics of the barrier in front of him. It was gentle but full of majesty. Standing in front of the barrier, it was almost impossible to have the idea of breaking it with violence. He must have seen this kind of barrier before. After thinking hard for a while, the shadow of a barrier finally stopped in Yang Chen's mind. Jade Pool. This was the feeling that the barrier outside the Jade Pool gave people. At the thought of this, Yang Chen almost broke out in a cold sweat. An immortal lord's tomb suddenly appeared in the spiritual world. What kind of concept was this? Which immortal lord died in the spiritual world? Yang Chen didn't have this concept in his mind. Wasn't this a big joke? A dignified immortal lord actually died in the spiritual world? How was this possible? However, be it the poems of the immortal world, the barrier of the Jade Pool, or even the profound immortal tribulation, it clearly told Yang Chen that this wasn't an illusion. It was really set up by an immortal lord from the immortal world. No, it's not the same. After pondering for a while, Yang Chen came to another conclusion. This barrier was different from the one in the Jade Pool. Of course, there were only a few differences. This barrier didn't have the aura of a king, but an overlord. The overbearing aura that was mixed with gentleness was something that Yang Chen had never experienced before. There was a domineering aura that was mixed with indomitable will. It was vaguely very similar to Shi Shanshan's aura. At the thought of this, Yang Chen felt that he seemed to have found some clues. The pure Yang immortal sword that Shi Shanshan had just obtained, and Shi Shanshan's supreme pure Yang sword qi cooperated seamlessly with Shi Shanshan's supreme pure Yang sword qi. Even the attributes were so compatible. Wasn't this too much of a coincidence? Coupled with the aura that was being emitted from the barrier, Yang Chen didn't dare to believe it. Could it really be his guess? Shanshan! Yang Chen called out to Shi Shanshan. Shi Shanshan didn't worry about him. She quickly walked to her husband's side and waited for Yang Chen's instructions. Yang Chen didn't say anything for a long time. He was still weighing whether he should do this or not. He looked up and saw the sheathed immortal sword in Shi Shanshan's hand. He suddenly felt relieved. Since she had even given him the immortal sword, she probably wouldn't care about such a small matter. Shanshan, use the immortal sword to release a supreme pure Yang sword qi. Yang Chen pointed to Shi Shanshan and said, "Don't use your full strength. Just tap on the barrier gently. The women were confused by her husband's words, but no one said anything. Sher Shanshan followed her husband's instructions and drew her immortal sword. She tapped the barrier gently with the tip of the sword. A tiny sword chi that was almost undetectable rushed out from the tip of the sword and pierced the barrier. After the sword chi penetrated, the barrier didn't react at all. After a while, it was still the same. Just as the women looked at their husband in shock and waited for him to explain, something strange happened. The transparent barrier that everyone was helpless against started to melt rapidly from the point where Sher Shanshan's sword chi touched. Amidst the sizzling sound, everyone could see the edges of the barrier disappear bit by bit. Finally, it completely disappeared. Looking at the scene in front of him, countless thoughts flashed through Yang Chen's mind. Could it really be the person I guessed? Impossible, right? Chapter 2073. Although he couldn't believe it, the facts in front of him told Yang Chen that everything in this tomb was related to the original owner of the Supreme Pure Yang Sword Qi, Lu Dongbin, Ancestor Lu. But to make Yang Chen believe that Ancestor Lu had died in the spiritual realm, it was better to make Yang Chen believe that he was the three pure Tao ancestors. This was impossible. Ancestor Lu could not have died in the spiritual realm. The invisible barrier was still melting, but everything in the manor began to change. It seemed that the melting of the barrier was the main switch. From the barrier, a strong vitality that people couldn't look at directly gushed out and quickly spread in other directions in the manor. After a while, Yang Chen and the others saw a vibrant vitality emerging in the manor. All the trees began a new round of growth, green leaves sprouted, and it was lush. The grass on the ground also sprouted. An indescribably beautiful vitality influenced everyone and made them feel extremely comfortable. Yang Chen's eyes were sharp, and he saw a huge shadow of a peony suddenly appear in the backyard of the manor. The shadow was very faint, very similar to the edges that appeared when the barrier melted, and if one didn't pay attention, they would miss it. The illusory figure disappeared in a flash and never appeared again. However, the next moment the entire manor came to life. That's right, it came to life. The living sculptures that Yang Chen and his family thought were the maids that were buried together with the deceased had all turned into beautiful living maids. As soon as those maids came to life, they immediately began to work, as if this seemingly clean manor was so dirty that it was uninhabitable in their eyes. One by one, the maids came in and went out busy, ignoring Yang Chen and his family who were standing here, and only cared about their own work. In a short while, it seemed that the entire manor had been cleaned, revealing a fresh and livable aura. And just at this time, the invisible barrier just happened to melt completely. Suddenly, a very pleasant man's voice sounded in everyone's ears. "Learn my sword chi, enter my door. Descendants, take care of everyone in this manor, and there will be benefits for you." The voice only sounded once and didn't appear again, but everyone was stunned in place, and no one made a sound for a long time. Who left behind the supreme pure yang sword chi? Ancestor Lu. Who was the one who had just spoken? Could it be Ancestor Lu? Did the legendary senior leave a message for them? Sher Shanshan was the one who couldn't believe it. She actually became Ancestor Lu's disciple? Such a great opportunity made Sher Shanshan dumbfounded on the spot. She simply couldn't believe it. "Welcome, esteemed guest." Just as everyone was bewildered, they heard a sweet voice in their ears. After he calmed down, he saw that there were 16 beautiful maids on the opposite side who were bowing to the Yang Chen family. "Madam invites you in. Honored guest, please follow me." Seeing everyone looking over, the maids immediately said in unison. The maids who had just turned a blind eye to them had now become so courteous. Moreover, who was the madam they were talking about? Only Yang Chen vaguely guessed something, but now was not the time to speak. He just nodded at the maids and signaled them to lead the way. The maids suppressed their curiosity and followed behind the maids, slowly walking to the back of the residence with their husband. It was said to be the backyard, but it was actually the hall in the backyard closest to the main hall. This was a place for entertaining relatives. The real backyard had women, but it was not convenient for outsiders to enter. Thinking of the words left by Ancestor Lu, Yang Chen also knew that the owner of the manor did not treat them as outsiders. He calmly followed the maids here. The maids served everyone to take a seat and served tea before bowing and retreating. Every move of these maids was very ladylike, and all kinds of etiquette were very natural. It could be assumed that they were very strict on normal days. The women also began to be a little interested in the madam they spoke of. Since the other party did not treat them as enemies, they wanted to see it first. "Madam has arrived." A maid who looked more pleasing to the eye walked in from behind, and called out in a sweet voice. Then she stretched out her hand to lift the curtain at the back and helped a white figure out from the back. The madam who walked in was wearing a white gauze dress, but it was just right to not reveal anything. Her figure was graceful, and when she walked, it was like a willow tree swaying in the breeze. The madam's face was also covered with a white gauze, revealing only a pair of beautiful eyes. But even so, when that pair of beautiful eyes turned slightly, the women felt a kind of ripple in their hearts. Even if they were also women, they would be deeply mesmerized by this pair of eyes. There was an elder of the Yin-Yang demon sect, Madame Fanghua, who was famous for her seduction, but even Madame Fanghua, in front of this woman, she was also ashamed. That kind of temperament that made people feel pity, even 10 Lady Fanghua could not compare to 10,000. On the other hand, Yang Chen did not have any special reaction and was not mesmerized. To be honest, Yang Chen had seen many fairies in the immortal world. He had even beheaded the 9 heavens Xian Envy and Fairy Chang Yi on the immortal beheading platform. Compared to Fairy Chang Yi, even if this woman's spring orchid and autumn chrysanthemum were superior, it did not make Yang Chen lose his composure. What surprised Yang Chen was the cultivation base of this woman. Yang Chen couldn't imagine that Ancestor Lu used a series of treasures from the immortal world to settle her, and it turned out to be a female cultivator with only a Xian immortal cultivation base. "Esteemed guest, please forgive me for not going out to welcome you." The madam walked forward and bowed to the women. How could Yang Chen dare to accept this bow? He hurriedly stood up and bowed back. The women did not dare to delay and all stood up and bowed. After the exchange of pleasantries, both sides sat down. "My surname is Bai." After the madam said this, she seemed to feel some discomfort in her head. She frowned slightly and her eyes shot out a confused look. After a while, she said apologetically, "But I can't remember who I am." After saying this, Madame Bai turned to her maid and asked, "Do you know who I am?" "Madame is Madame." The maid's answer was very clever, but Yang Chen clearly saw from her eyes that she did not seem to remember who her madam was. This situation was very similar to Lin Jingyuan, who had his memories sealed and was sent to the spirit realm. It was just that Ancestor Lu's methods were more clever, and Madame Bai did not become an idiot like Lin Jingyuan. At this point, Yang Chen could more or less guess who this Madame Bai was. Thinking of Ancestor Lu's romantic legend in the past, coupled with the huge shadow of the peony outside the barrier, and everything that Ancestor Lu had painstakingly arranged, everything pointed to one person, the Peony Fairy, White Peony. Chapter 2074. Back then, Lu Dongbin and Bai Peony had left behind a romantic story that people still talked about enthusiastically. Yang Chen always thought that Bai Peony might have been killed during the Heavenly Court's rebellion. He didn't expect that Ancestor Lu had already arranged everything many years ago. He sent the Peony Fairy to the spiritual realm and even set up this immortal monarch tomb. Ancestor Lu had probably planned everything. If the tomb wasn't discovered, then the Peony Fairy and the maids would always be in deep sleep until Ancestor Lu brought them back one day. If someone discovered it, then they wouldn't be able to pass the third test. If they could pass the third test and open the barrier, then they would definitely be Ancestor Lu's disciple or grand disciple. No matter how they learned the supreme pure yang sword chi, they would have a master-disciple relationship with Ancestor Lu. They couldn't just come in and not take care of Madame Bai according to his wishes. Everything had been calculated. Those who could come in were definitely talented, had excellent eyesight, and were brave. How could they not know what this setup meant? They would probably take care of Madame Bai even if they had to risk their lives. Madame Bai and the maids were all suppressed to the Xian, immortal realm. Even if no one took care of them, they would be as safe as Mount Tai in the spiritual realm. With someone taking care of them, it would be even safer. It seemed that the big shots all treated the spiritual realm as a place for their loved ones to hide. Madame Bai was like this, Zhou Xianying was like this, and Lin Jingyuan was like this. However, Ancestor Lu's generosity was great. He directly sent Madame Bai and more than 1,000 maids from the manor. Compared to Zhou Xianying and Lin Jingyuan's father, he was many times more brilliant. Apologies, I really can't remember who I am. Madame Bai turned around and apologized after hearing that the maids didn't know who she was. Madam, you're too kind. We can't accept it. Yang Chun hurriedly stood up and replied, Actually, we're all Madam's juniors. If Madam has any requests, just tell us. No need to be polite. I also feel that you guys are a little familiar. Madame Bai was still frowning. She pointed at Yang Chun, Shi Shanshan, and Gong Sunling. There is something familiar about you, but I can't remember. When Yang Chun acknowledged himself as a junior, Madame Bai immediately changed the way she addressed him from concubine to me. It was as if she had already made up her mind. Even the surrounding maidservants behaved in the same way, as if it was only natural. It seemed that Ancestor Lu had already arranged everything. Otherwise, the maidservants would not have ignored them at the beginning. They must have long regarded them as Madame's juniors. He could sense a familiar aura coming from the three of them. That was understandable. Shi Shanshan's supreme pure yang sword chi and the pure yang immortal sword definitely had the aura of Ancestor Lu. Gong Suanling's mountain river geographical map was devouring the super-large cave abode, which was also a magic treasure of the same lineage. As for Yang Chun, when he obtained the supreme pure yang sword chi, Yang Chun had refined the scabbard. It was also an old item of Ancestor Lu, so it would be weird if he wasn't familiar. It wasn't a bad thing to have such a senior. At least, Yang Chun knew that in his previous life, the people in the new heavenly court didn't even have the guts to hunt down Ancestor Lu. They were happy that Ancestor Lu didn't appear. With such a strong ally, if he ascended to the celestial world and found out that Madame Bai was here, he would definitely come looking for her. One by one, they introduced themselves. Madame Bai didn't care that Yang Chun had so many wives and concubines. It was as if she thought it was natural. Where is this place? What year is this? Madame Bai couldn't remember her identity, so she didn't think about it. Although she was familiar with the manor, the outside was very unfamiliar. She had to ask. This is the spiritual world. Yang Chun said honestly. Of course, he also gave a rough description of the year. I might have slept for too long. I didn't expect to come to the spiritual world unknowingly. Madame Bai laughed at herself and didn't say anything else. She couldn't remember anything. What's the situation outside? Madame Bai asked. Yang Chun didn't dare to be slow. He immediately told her about the current situation in the spiritual world. As for the matter of the heavenly court changing sex, Yang Chun thought about it and told her everything. He didn't want Madame Bai to misunderstand the Black Heaven sect and the other sects. Since Ancestor Lu sent Madame Bai down to the spiritual world many years ago, she probably didn't know what happened in the celestial world. It wouldn't affect her memory. Madame Bai didn't even remember who she was, so she wouldn't worry about Ancestor Lu. Just as he was about to continue asking, Madame Bai's expression suddenly changed. She laughed coldly. It seems there are many people with ulterior motives. Yang Chun, who else knows about me? Someone came in? Yang Chen's mind directly flashed the shopkeepers of the Cold Acid Pavilion and the Lost Star Pavilion. Thinking about it, they were a bit too straightforward when they gave him the location of the ancient tomb. Yang Chen didn't realize there was a conspiracy. Since someone came, those two probably didn't give up and wanted to see if he had a chance. Quite a few people came, and their cultivation levels are quite high. Madame Bai was the owner of this place, so she could easily sense the intruders. Turning her head, Mrs. Bai smiled and criticized Yang Chen. In the future, this kind of thing can't be done so carelessly. Madame Bai didn't say what to do, but Yang Chen knew what she meant. He was very angry. It wasn't just two people. Could it be that there was someone behind those two? Or did he spread the news and attract many people? Junior will go take care of it now. This matter was caused by Yang Chen, so Yang Chen naturally had to take care of it. However, when Madame Bai heard this, she waved her hand to indicate that it was fine. In the past, when I was sleeping, there was no one watching. It's fine if someone dared to steal from my house. After all, there were only some worthless decorations outside. At this moment, Madame Bai didn't have the good temper of the legendary Peony Fairy. When I woke up, they still dared to barge into my house. Is this a place where they can come and go as they please? Her tone didn't have the gentleness that everyone had when they first met Madame Bai. Instead, it was filled with killing intent and majesty. Yang Chen saw this and couldn't help but sigh. As expected, if one wasn't a family, one wouldn't enter the same house. The legendary ancestor Lu wasn't someone to be bullied. Madame Bai was the same. So many Xian Immortal experts came. What are they planning? Madame Bai squinted her eyes and said coldly as she sensed the commotion outside. Yes, someone even said that they want to flatten this place and take it away. Very good. Under everyone's gaze, Madame Bai didn't seem afraid at all. Instead, she asked Yang Chen, how do you want them to die? Chapter 2075. Ever since he'd guessed Madame Bai's identity, Yang Chen knew that all the invaders were courting death. Disregarding everything else, just the 100,000 kilometers of heavenly tribulation domain outside the manor wasn't a place an ordinary profound immortal could cross. 10 times the Xian Immortal heavenly tribulation. Unless one's strength had reached the golden immortal level, Xian Immortal experts would just be sending themselves to their death. Moreover, even if they survived, they'd have to ascend after the tribulation. No matter how strong they wouldn't be able to threaten Madame Bai in the manor. As for the other methods, Yang Chen didn't even need to think about it. Forefather Lu had already arranged everything and could make Madame Bai act at any time. I think it's better to leave a few alive to interrogate them about their identities and intentions. Yang Chen didn't answer Madame Bai's question. Instead, he made a similar suggestion. Very well. Madame Bai nodded lightly. Her veiled face didn't show any expression, but everyone could tell from the gleam in her eyes that she was ready to kill. Rose, Peony, bring a few alive, Madame Bai ordered. Madame Bai gave an order, and the two maids were about to leave when they heard Madame Bai ask, Yang Chen, what kind of person would know? The ones with the highest cultivation, the ones who seem to be the ones giving the orders, and the ones who are the most cowardly. Yang Chen didn't hesitate to list a few options. Or those who've been here before. Although he knew that Madame Bai and the maids had been asleep, Yang Chen was sure that they would know who'd entered when they'd woken up. Do as young Master Yang says. Madame Bai finally waved her hand. Both Rose and Peony curtsied, then quickly retreated. From these two flower names, Yang Chen was even more certain that Madame Bai was White Peony. Otherwise, her maids wouldn't have such flower names. Yang Chen didn't know what Madame Bai would do, but he didn't need to know. He was certain that the invaders would die, and that was enough. Yang Chen also heard another meaning in Madame Bai's address. She called Yang Chen by his name, and as a senior, it was understandable. But she had asked the maids to address him as young Master Yang, which clearly meant that she was treating him as her own junior. He didn't expect to have such a close relationship with Ancestor Lu in the spiritual realm. He had thought that it was possible to be recognized only after he obtained Shirshanshan's supreme pure yang sword qi from the celestial world. But now, he was simply a senior backing that came knocking on his door. Not long after, Yang Chen heard a flurry of footsteps, and then a few figures were thrown to the ground. A human cultivator at the 8th stage of the Mystic Immortal stage, a cultivator at the 5th stage of the Mystic Immortal stage, and 2 wretched cultivators at the Earth Immortal stage had all lost their ability to move. Looking at the 2 familiar earthly immortal cultivators, Yang Chen smiled. The 2 shopkeepers of the Poor Acid Pavilion and the Lost Star Pavilion were indeed unwilling to give up. After giving Yang Chen the address, they still wanted to follow Yang Chen and take advantage of the situation. If that was the case, Yang Chen wouldn't have taken it too far. It was human nature, after all. It was normal for one to feel indignant after giving away something that they had been eyeing for hundreds of years. However, bringing along so many experts was a completely different matter. Shopkeepers, we meet again. Yang Chen teased the 2 shopkeepers. Not far away, the 2 maids, Ruanji and Peony, were placing a large pile of magic treasures and qiankuan bags on a table. From the looks of it, these were the belongings of the invading enemies. The 2 shopkeepers of the Poor Acid Pavilion and the Lost Star Pavilion couldn't even move. When they suddenly heard Yang Chen's voice, they were so scared that they shivered. "Spare me! Spare me!" The shopkeeper of the Poor Acid Pavilion was the most unprincipled one. He immediately started begging. If he could move, he would probably kneel down and kowtow to Imowuji. The shopkeeper of the Lost Star Pavilion was more strong-willed. He didn't even beg for mercy, but his trembling body revealed his nervousness. "It's none of our business." The voice of the shopkeeper of the Poor Acid Pavilion was miserable, as if his parents had died in front of him. "We sold things and earned a sum of spirit stones. We planned to conceal our identity, but we were found out. There was no way." After crying for a long time, Yang Chen didn't continue. Over there, Ruanji came over with 2 qiankuan bags and respectfully handed them to Yang Chen's hands. "Young Master Yang, these are the qiankuan bags of the 2 of them." Yang Chen reached out and took it. With a sweep of his spiritual awareness, he understood most of the things inside. In addition to spirit stones, there were some messy magic treasures and materials. They were very extensive, but it was in line with the identity of the 2 shopkeepers. However, Yang Chen did not trust them so much. He stepped to the side of the 2 and suddenly reached out and pressed on the head of the shopkeeper of the Poor Acid Pavilion. With a move of his mind, Xiao Tian appeared in the hands of Yang Chen. It seemed to drill into the head of the shopkeeper of the Poor Acid Pavilion. Then Yang Chen pulled his hand back and the 2 brilliant flying swords were pulled out from the body of the shopkeeper of the Poor Acid Pavilion by Xiao Tian. "It's actually a dragon species, interesting." Madame Bai, who had not spoken, saw the action of Xiao Tian and her eyes lit up. Even if she couldn't remember who she was, it did not hinder her extraordinary eyesight. The masters of the immortal world were masters of the immortal world. Naturally, they were different from ordinary people. "Shopkeeper, your life source flying sword is not ordinary." Yang Chen held one of the swords and carefully observed it. He said with a smile, "It's still this unique refining technique, it's rare. This is the reward they bribed us to give." The shopkeeper of the Poor Acid Pavilion just wanted to argue, but the more he said, the lower his voice became, and finally it was inaudible. 2 swords, one was the real-life source flying sword and the other was to confuse outsiders, but in front of Yang Chen, it was clear at a glance which sword had been sacrificially refined for a longer time. "The unique technique of the Zhao family," Yang Chen said with a smile. "When I was in the mortal world, I once found a batch of ancient books of the Zhao family, which recorded a lot of things. Could it be that you also bought the refining method from those ancient books?" "Exactly." The voice of the shopkeeper of the Poor Acid Pavilion suddenly became louder. As long as he could get away with it, he could say anything. It seems that shopkeeper has a good relationship with the major sect. Yang Chen sneered and no longer paid attention to him. He turned directly to the front of the shopkeeper of the Lost Star Pavilion, squatted down and looked at him and said, "Shopkeeper, I know you are different from him. Tell me your real identity. What do you want here?" "We are from another branch of the Zhao family." The shopkeeper of the Lost Star Pavilion was obviously much tougher than the one in the Poor Acid Pavilion. He directly admitted his identity as a member of the Zhao family. "We mainly do business to earn spirit stones. By the way, we search for various relics in various places to see if we can find anything suitable." Chapter 2076. It was normal for a family to have someone in charge of fighting and someone in charge of making money. Even Chunyang Palace was the same. Wanbao Tower was responsible for making money and inquiring about information. The two shopkeepers were the part of the Zhao family that was responsible for making money and doing business, but they still had to hide their names and didn't dare to reveal their true identities. "Do you think you can live if you tell us?" At this time, the 8th grade Xian Immortal expert who hadn't spoken couldn't move, but a cold voice came from there. "Granduncle, you usually don't care about these unorthodox things." The shopkeeper of the Lost Star Pavilion replied loudly, "We're here. Grandmaster Yang has a way to make us speak. Anyway, we'll say it anyway. If we say it now, we'll suffer less, and we can have a quick death." Even on this occasion, the shopkeeper of the Lost Star Pavilion still called Yang Chen Grandmaster Yang. This was a sincere admiration for Yang Chen's alchemy skills, and had nothing to do with flattery. The man who was called Granduncle shut his mouth. He also understood that he was purely a cultivator who only knew how to fight. Compared to these two grandnephews who ran around all year round, he was much less knowledgeable. Since one of them could make such a shameless and sincere appearance, and the other one readily revealed his identity, it seemed that Yang Chen really had a way to make them tell the truth. The secret of the Zhao family couldn't be easily revealed, even if they failed now. But no matter how hard this granduncle tried, he still couldn't move. His spiritual power was completely suppressed, and even his divine sense was controlled. He didn't have any chance to commit suicide. The other party had such means, no wonder that grandnephew said that. He had probably speculated a lot from these means. Needless to say, if he wanted a junior with insufficient cultivation to speak, he indeed had a lot of ways. Now that he was a fish on the chopping block, there was nothing to say. At this point, he didn't have any regrets, but he was a little unwilling. If he knew that there would be such benefits if he came in first, he might have broken the door and rushed in a few years ago. "Why didn't you break in?" Yang Chen asked. The other party had discovered this tomb more than 100 or 200 years ago, and they had not barged in until now. It could be seen that they had more plans. "We want everything in the tomb intact," the shopkeeper of the Forgotten Star Pavilion replied. "Wait!" Madame Bai suddenly interrupted and asked, "Are you saying that this is a tomb?" As soon as Yang Chen heard this, he knew something was wrong. A woman's heart was like a needle at the bottom of the sea. Although Madame Bai couldn't remember who she was, no one would be happy to be sent to a tomb alive. Even Ancestor Lu's arrangements were the same. "Madam, please calm down," Yang Chen hurriedly explained. If he didn't explain well, he would be implicated as well. When he ascended to the immortal world, he would definitely be punished by Ancestor Lu for his incompetence. The old man couldn't deal with Madame Bai, but could he not deal with his own family? Arranging for Madame to hibernate in the tomb is reasonable. Yang Chen could only say this, and he had to say it. While saying this, Yang Chen's mind was thinking about how to explain it. Suddenly, he remembered his experience of absorbing the Emperor's aura with the girls after the trial on the Demon Continent. So, Yang Chen immediately opened his mouth and talked about how his family practiced in the Demon Continent, how they took the initiative to go to the world of mortals to refine their hearts, how they looked after the feng shui dragon cave and buried their family. When it came to the exciting part, even the maids like Yu Ji and Xiaoyao were listening with great interest. They couldn't care less about anything else. Did you really have such an experience? Madame Bai also felt it was unimaginable, so she turned to the girls and asked. Only Gao Yu, Gong Sunling, Shi Shanshan, and Sun Qingxue had experienced all this. The others didn't have the opportunity. They didn't know that Yang Chun and his 4 sisters had such an unimaginable experience. Gao Yu, Gong Sunling, Shi Shanshan, and Sun Qingxue all nodded. Gao Yu also knew that Madame Bai was feeling uncomfortable, so in order to win her trust, she released the aura of the 3 emperors. Yu Ji and Xiaoyao all felt the power of the 3 emperors' aura, so they couldn't believe what Yang Chen said. In Yang Chen's family, only Yang Chun and his 4 wives weren't affected by the aura. Apart from them, the only one who wasn't affected was Madame Bai. Even Yu Ji and Xiaoyao weren't spared. So you're saying that that person wanted to help me? Madame Bai finally accepted this explanation. Her anger subsided as well. But then she immediately frowned. Who was that person? Why can't I remember? After a while, Madame Bai stopped thinking about who that person was. She turned her attention back to the captives in front of her. The shopkeeper of the Lost Star Pavilion had already revealed most of the information. The Zhao family wanted everything in the tomb. This was normal. If there was a chance to get the tomb in one piece, who would break the outer shell to get what was inside? The 2 shopkeepers thought they wouldn't have a chance to open the tomb again, so they wanted to find clues from Yang Chun. After all, Yang Chun was quite famous in this area. Moreover, the things that Yang Chun bought from their shop were very normal. No one could guess what Yang Chun had found. That was why they told Yang Chun where the tomb was and asked him to be the vanguard. They didn't expect Yang Chun to break through all the stages and easily reach the core floor. The people of the Zhao family, who had been waiting outside, finally lost their patience. When they rushed in, intending to take it by force, the disaster suddenly fell from the sky. The people who came in were heavily injured and killed, and the remaining people were easily captured and brought here. Most people who heard this would basically believe 99% of it. Who wouldn't want to do this if they had such a chance? But Yang Chen didn't think so. Your Zhao family didn't do this in the Lingyun Immortal Cave. Yang Chen thought of the Zhao family's previous attack and immediately retorted, back then, you directly broke through all the formations and went straight to the core. Why didn't you think about getting the whole Lingyun Immortal Cave back then? The Lingyun Immortal Cave was something that the Zhao family had explored a long time ago. Yang Chen found it in some records of the Holocaust sect of the 3 River Alliance and the 1,000 Demons sect. Logically speaking, the Lingyun Immortal Cave seemed to be of a much higher level than this tomb. There was no reason for them to break through the better one and be so careful over a weaker one. The only possibility was that the shopkeeper of the Lost Star Pavilion was lying. Chapter 2077. Could it be that they're here for my madam? Rose and Peony were furious when they heard Yang Chen's analysis. They stepped forward to attack. They're not here for me. Madame Bai waved her hand and the 2 girls stopped. Madame Bai stared at the 8th rank arcane, immortal expert for a long time before saying, they're here for this manner. Her words caused the expressions of the captured members of the Zhao clan to change drastically. It seemed that Madame Bai's words had struck a chord in their hearts. These fellows were truly cunning, especially the shopkeeper of the Lost Star Pavilion. He'd acted as if he was just asking for a quick death. He'd even convinced his granduncle, and given a reasonable answer. If Yang Chen didn't know about the Lingyun Immortal Cave, then they'd be able to bluff their way through. Even if Madame Bai killed him, they wouldn't reveal the Zhao clan's true goal. In any case, they weren't wrong. If they wanted the entire tomb, then the manor would naturally be part of it. Hiding one's true goal under one's nose was the highest level of lying. Yang Chen couldn't help but admire the Zhao clan for being able to think so much at a time like this. I vaguely remember leaking some of its power when we first came here. Madame Bai's face revealed a look of reminiscence. I should still be asleep, but I just know that I leaked some of its power. A trace of the heavenly tribulation's power leaked out. Presumably, someone discovered this and has been thinking about it for a long time. Yang Chen couldn't help but be moved. It seemed that the heavenly tribulations outside weren't simulated, but real ones. But Yang Chen was a little puzzled. Why would there be tribulation energy in this cave? Was it something like the tribulation room? No wonder the Zhao family would care so much. It turned out that there was such a good thing here. If it was Yang Chen who found it, it was estimated that he would try to get it. What a disappointment. Madame Bai looked at the faces of the Zhao clan members. She knew she'd hit the nail on the head. You people, what else do you know besides robbing others? Have you never thought of cultivating to that level? Just like him. At this point, Madame Bai frowned again. She still couldn't remember who the person she was talking about was. He felt that he should be very familiar with it, but when the words were at the tip of his tongue, he couldn't say them out. It was very uncomfortable. Forget it, let's not think about it. Madame Bai couldn't figure it out no matter how hard she thought about it. She shook her head to get rid of that person's shadow from her mind. She looked at the four fellows. Now that she knew their goal, she wasn't interested in them anymore. I'll leave it to you, Yang Chen. Do whatever you want with them. After that, Madame Bai stood up and left. After a few steps, she turned her back to Yang Chen and said, "Stay here for a few days. I'll bother you when I figure out where to go." After Madame Bai left, Rosie Peony and the others followed suit. However, the pile of cosmos pouches and magic treasures that had been placed on the table earlier flew towards Yang Chen. The meaning was obvious. These things also belonged to Yang Chen. It should be known that these were the possessions of a bunch of Xian immortal experts. However, Madame Bai didn't even want to take a look at them. Not to mention Madame Bai, even Rosie Peony and Rosie Peony didn't want to touch them. If it wasn't for the fact that she wanted to know the origins of these people, she probably wouldn't even touch them. Yang Chen smiled bitterly. With Madame Bai's eyesight, she really wouldn't be interested in these things. It was better to count on a rich man to covet a beggar's dog-beating stick than to count on a 10,000 tribulation true immortal to be interested in some small things from the spiritual realm. These people from the Zhao family were actually not of much use to Yang Chen now. Big brother Li Qing and Ao Lan knew the specific location of the Zhao family. There was no need to ask them. As for what secrets the Zhao family had, it was worth looking forward to. However, now was not the time to ask. These people wouldn't tell the truth at this time. Yang Chen thought about it and threw them into the mountain river geographical map. After they were assimilated for a period of time, he would let Gong Sunling or his third primordial spirit interrogate them. Madame Bai wanted them to stay. Of course, Yang Chen followed her advice and stayed with his family. The manor was not small. Soon, a group of maids came and led them to the guest room to settle down. When only Yang Chen's family was left, Sun Qingxue asked the question that she had been suppressing for a long time. "Husband, do you know Madame Bai's identity?" Yang Chen nodded. There was nothing to hide about knowing Madame Bai's identity, especially from his wives and concubines. Yang Chen admitted it openly. "Who is Madame Bai?" The curious Sun Qingxue immediately asked the question that everyone wanted to know. Dozens of beautiful eyes looked at Yang Chen, waiting for his answer. "I can't say it." Yang Chen shook his head. How could he easily say the identity of the Peony Fairy? Ancestor Lu had paid a great price to block the Peony Fairy's memory. How could he easily reveal it? If Ancestor Lu knew that he had broken the old man's arrangement, Yang Chen was not sure how long he could live after he ascended to the immortal world. Even if Yang Chen's golden body secret art reached the peak of the 7th level, and the golden bell was completely absorbed and integrated, Yang Chen had no chance of winning against Ancestor Lu. Not to mention the chance of winning, Yang Chen was not even sure if he had a chance to escape. Some words could not be said casually. Otherwise, why would people say that silence is golden? People always say that food can be eaten indiscriminately, but words cannot be said indiscriminately. Sure, Shanshan had vaguely guessed that it might be related to her supreme pure yang sword qi, but she was not completely sure. Since her husband did not say it, she was smart to shut up. After living in the manor for a few months, Madame Bai did not show up. Yang Chen estimated that Madame Bai had just woken up at this time. She must have carefully recalled what happened in the manor during these years when she was asleep. At the same time, she had to think carefully about what to do in the spiritual world in the future. Yang Chen did not dare to urge this kind of thing. Fortunately, the manor was also extremely rich in spiritual power, which was very suitable for cultivation. No one was lazy, so they just cultivated and waited here. Half a year later, Madame Bai finally appeared in front of everyone again. Looking at her appearance, it seemed that she also understood a lot of things, but it was unknown whether she remembered who she was and who he was. I have been in this manor for a long time, and I am a little tired. What fun places in the spiritual world have there been these years? Take me to see them. Madame Bai really regarded Yang Chen as her younger generation. Her words were not polite, and it was not a discussion, but a direct command. I don't want to live in a tomb after waking up. Chapter 2078. Madame Bai was a procrastinator. It would take her half a year to recuperate after waking up. However, when it was time for her to leave, she wished she could leave immediately without any delay. Yang Chen, where will you stay when you're alone? Can I stay there for a few days? As she urged Yang Chen and the others to leave, Madame Bai was already planning to visit Yang Chen's house. I don't want to stay in this tomb for even a second longer. Women were women. Even if they knew that they had gained a lot from the tomb, when it was time to leave, they would want to leave immediately. This was a common problem for all women. Even Gao Yu and the others were the same. No one wanted to be associated with the tomb. Madame Bai's maids were all ready and could leave at any time. Madame Bai waved her hand and everyone's vision blurred. Then, they appeared in the basin outside the tomb. Seeing the faintly visible word, tomb, on the tree, Madame Bai's expression was very unhappy. She was stunned for a moment before she reached out and put the tree away. Yang Chen only now realized that this living and growing tree was the main body of the manor. Senior's artifact refining methods are truly unimaginable, making one sigh in admiration. Hurry, hurry. Let's go into your house and take a look. There was a large group of maids. Madame Bai didn't seem to want to take them into the manor. Perhaps the maids didn't want to stay in the tomb. They were all women, and Madame Bai could understand their common thoughts. My humble abode is humble. Your presence brings light to my humble dwelling. Yang Chen didn't dare to be slow. He quickly wrapped everyone up and took them into the Dragon Palace. As soon as he said this, he heard gasps of admiration. They were currently in the central hall of the Five Elements Dragon Palace. Below them was a complete diagram of the 5 elemental spirit veins. It was made up of the water, fire, earth, metal, and wood veins. Around it were 5 dragon palaces of different attribute. They were arranged according to the 5 elements, and they looked magnificent. Even Madame Bai, who was experienced and knowledgeable, couldn't help but gasp when she saw the luxurious 5 elements dragon palace. When Rose Peony and the other maids saw this, they cried out in surprise. If you call this a humble abode, then the one I just stayed in should be called a rural cemetery. Madame Bai looked at the 5 elements dragon palace in a daze and said speechlessly. The aura of the dragon clan in the dragon palace was so strong that it was obvious that this was the dragon palace. You flatter me. Yang Chen now addressed Madame Bai as you, expressing his respect. He didn't call Madame Bai senior or old, nor did he call her Madame Bai Madam. Madame Bai couldn't be bothered to comment on how Yang Chen addressed her. She wanted to visit the 5 elements dragon palace first. Even when the Peony Fairy was still in the Immortal world, did she have any chance to enter the dragon palace? Back then, Patriarch Lu and the rest of the 8 immortals crossed the sea and had a very unpleasant relationship with the Dragon King. Patriarch Lu also did not have such an opportunity. Now that he saw them one by one, it was truly an eye-opener. Although Patriarch Lu was an expert, when it came to wealth, it was still far from the Dragon Clan, who was as rich as a country. The villa that Patriarch Lu prepared for the Peony Fairy was powerful, but to say that it was luxurious, it was not on the same level. That villa was at most the level of a noble family's manor, but this dragon palace was clearly the realm of the Emperor's palace, the difference between heaven and earth. Not far away, Madame Bai saw the 4 seas mysterious coral liquid lake. Even if she had imagined the luxury of Yangchun to the extreme, she did not think that the 4 seas mysterious coral liquid could be described as a lake. "Prepare these for me, I want to take a bath." Madame Bai estimated that in front of Patriarch Lu, she wanted the wind and rain. Although she couldn't remember her own identity and Patriarch Lu's, this habit had not changed at all. She directly ordered, and didn't care that this was not her home at all, but Yang Chen's Immortal's cave. The benefits of the 4 seas mysterious coral liquid for cultivators were self-evident. Madame Bai's vision was high, and she was about to use it for a bath, but she was not polite to Yang Chen at all. Although Patriarch Lu was powerful, he did not let her enjoy this kind of extravagance beyond imagination. "The wood palace over there has been prepared for you and the sisters." Yang Chen pointed to the direction of the wood dragon palace, and then motioned to Gao Yu and the others to help. "Don't worry, after you wash, you can taste the craftsmanship of my wife." Those who came were guests, but Yang Chen counted the maids of Madame Bai. You must know that they were found by Patriarch Lu to serve the Peony Fairy. Everyone's real cultivation base was at least above the great principal golden immortal. Pleasing them would not cause any losses. After taking the 4 seas mysterious coral liquid and bathing with the 4 seas mysterious coral liquid, they would definitely sleep for a few days. Yang Chen was also happy to wait. When they were asleep, they would leave the basin first, otherwise they would be unhappy to live in the grave. For Yang Chen's arrangement, Madame Bai and a group of maids were very satisfied. They were all of the wood attribute, and it was very comfortable in the wood dragon palace. Coupled with Yang Chen's generosity, everyone had a good impression of Yang Chen's family. When the women woke up after a bath, the impurities in their bodies were gone. Everyone seemed to have been reborn, fresh and full of vitality. Even looking at it from a distance, it was pleasing to the eye. Gong Sunling and several concubines who had been imperial chefs made a beautiful and incomparable imperial banquet. Madame Bai and the maids were all guests. Sun Qingshue's wine and Shi Shanshan's fragrant tea made the guests smile. "Compared with your life here, I found that I lived a beggar's life before." Madame Bai enjoyed the fragrant tea after the food with satisfaction, breathing the overflowing spiritual energy, and her mood was indescribably happy. Looking at Yang Chen's attentive hospitality, she couldn't help but sigh. After Madame Bai said this, before Yang Chen could reply, Rose Peony, who was beside Madame Bai, nodded repeatedly. It seemed like they were also shocked. They probably didn't think that a cultivator could rely on wealth to intimidate others to this extent. "If you like it, then stay for a few more days. Stay here until you don't want to anymore," Yang Chen said with a smile. He really hoped that Madame Bai would stay here. The longer she stayed, the more Ancestor Lu would owe him. This was a worthwhile transaction. "I'll use that graveyard to exchange with you. Is that okay?" Madame Bai didn't know what was wrong, so she suddenly made a suggestion that stunned Yang Chen. For a moment, Yang Chen didn't know how to reply. "What, you don't want to?" Seeing Yang Chen was stunned, Madame Bai's face revealed a proud smile. Finally, she made things difficult for Yang Chen. It could be considered that she vented a bit of her anger at this junior for making her lose her composure. "Change." Yang Chen really reacted at this time, and immediately replied resolutely. Only an idiot would not exchange for such a good thing. Chapter 2079. No matter how strong the Dragon Palace was, it was just a little more luxurious and could be connected to various spiritual veins. Of course, the magic weapon of the Dragon Clan had always been very advanced. This was an indisputable fact. However, no matter how good the Dragon Palace was, it was nothing compared to a manor that spontaneously had a heavenly tribulation. In order to refine that heavenly tribulation room, Yang Chen almost fell out with Jing Hu, and that was just a mortal world's heavenly tribulation. But the heavenly tribulation in the cemetery was celestial immortal tribulation and Xian immortal tribulation. Thinking of this, Yang Chen's heart suddenly moved. The Zhao family had an expert at the entrance of the beast space. In that space, there were always Xian immortal level beasts appearing. Could it be that there was no heavenly tribulation in that space? If this was the case, the Zhao family's idea of the cemetery had the most reasonable explanation. The other party wanted to bring heavenly tribulation to that space and turn it into a real world. Of course, this was just Yang Chen's guess, and could not be completely confirmed. But it was a very likely guess, so Yang Chen had to start investigating according to this clue. However, as soon as Madame Bai said that she wanted to exchange, he immediately wanted to exchange, which seemed a little too straightforward. It seemed that the reason why he was so flattering Madame Bai was because he wanted to take over the manor. This was not good. "It is a great honor for you to take a fancy to my humble house," Yang Chen quickly remedied. "No need to exchange, as long as you say it, this junior will immediately offer it with both hands." It was just a 5 elements dragon palace. As long as he had a good relationship with the Dragon Clan, how many dragon palaces couldn't he get? As long as Shao Tian was there and the Dragon Pagoda was there, it was not impossible to get another 5 elements dragon palace in the future. But there was only one opportunity to flatter Ancestor Lu's wife. If he didn't seize it, he would miss it. "You have a heart." Madame Bai gave Yang Chen a sentence with satisfaction. "Forget it, a gentleman doesn't take what others like. Your dragon palace is still yours." At this moment, Yang Chen almost wanted to scold Madame Bai. What gentleman doesn't take what others like? You are a woman, not a gentleman. It is normal to take what others like. Hurry up and exchange the graveyard for the Dragon Palace. Unfortunately, Yang Chen could only keep these words in his mind, not daring to reveal any of them. "Since you like the cemetery so much, I'll give it to you." Madame Bai's next words were like music to Yang Chen's ears, causing Yang Chen to feel a sense of disbelief. "Is he giving it to me?" Yang Chen looked coldly at Madame Bai's face, which was still covered by a white veil. He looked at her beautiful eyes and couldn't believe his ears. "Did I hear wrongly? I don't want to bring a graveyard with me." Madame Bai seemed to be talking to herself, but she also seemed to be explaining to Yang Chen why she had given the manor to Yang Chen. She was very upset about the fact that she had been sleeping in a tomb. After waking up, she could not accept anything related to it. Even though Yang Chen had already explained that she might have obtained something special in her sleep, Madame Bai was still very against it. Although Ancestor Lu was good at fighting, he was very bad at reading people's hearts, especially a woman's heart. He thought that he had arranged a unique cave for the Peony Fairy, but he never thought about how the Peony Fairy would feel. "What are you waiting for? You are a close junior, as an elder, I have to give you a gift." Madame Bai smiled at Yang Chen. "It is rare that you like it so much, so I'll give it to you." Yang Chen had never felt that the world was so beautiful. The rule of an elder giving a junior a gift was so correct. In short, it was simply too good. The women around them were already stunned by Madame Bai's words, and they couldn't say anything for a long time. They had seen their husband's generosity, and they had seen Brother Li Cheng's generosity. Madame Bai didn't seem to be at a disadvantage at all. "Senior." Under excitement, Yang Chen once again called out the word senior. "If you feel sorry and want to give something back, then give me some of these 4 Seas mysterious coral liquid. I want to go back and swim in the 4 Seas mysterious coral liquid lake." Madame Bai was not polite to Yang Chen at all, especially after she gave him a gift. She did not regard him as an outsider and said what he wanted directly. You take it all. Yang Chen was also straightforward. Madame Bai said that she wanted the 4 C's mysterious coral liquid, and Yang Chen immediately agreed. No, I'll leave half for you. Madame Bai was very generous to save half for Yang Chen, and then said, if there is any medicinal pill that can nourish one's appearance and beauty. This junior refined the appearance pill according to Fairy Chang Yi's pill recipe. Yang Chen didn't say anything. A large bottle of the top appearance pill was immediately taken out, and there was also a piece of jade slip. This is the pill recipe, please accept it, senior. Fairy Chang Yi's? Madame Peony suddenly became interested. She picked up the medicinal pill and looked at it carefully. She took one on the spot and was so happy that she couldn't help herself. The pill recipe was solemnly put away. This was a treasure more precious than the cemetery. Yang Chen now finally understood that the Peony Fairy cared about her appearance more than anything else. The 4 C's mysterious coral liquid removed impurities, and the skin of the body became more delicate and elastic, so she wanted the 4 C's mysterious coral liquid. Now there was Fairy Chang Yi's appearance pill and pill recipe, which made her even more happy. Lu Zhu probably did not think that after he sealed the memory of Madame Bai sometimes only cared about the parts she cared about the most. A woman would dress up for the one who pleases her, or it could be said that in the heart of the Peony Fairy, the most important thing was to show her most beautiful side to Lu Zhu. From this perspective, the Peony Fairy was indeed very affectionate to Lu Zhu, otherwise she would not care so much about her appearance. She was so familiar with Yang Chen now, but she still covered her face with a veil. The most beautiful side must be reserved for Lu Zhu. In addition, this younger generation junior also has a beauty cultivation method of Fairy Chang Yi, please accept it. Since it was a favor, then it should be done at once. Madame Bai received the medicinal pill and pill recipe, and Yang Chen immediately sent the cultivation method over. Good. Madame Bai did not hesitate to take it, and her eyes were full of a happy smile. When I cultivate well, I will see him in the future, and let him see a more beautiful me. But, who is he? Just speaking of this, the Peony Fairy began to be confused again. Yang Chen knew the answer, but he didn't dare to say a word, and he didn't even dare to give a hint. If he accidentally revealed the identity of the Peony Fairy and Lu Zhu, and ruined the arrangement of Lu Zhu, Yang Chen would not be able to bear the consequences. Thinking about how powerful Shi Shanshan was when she just absorbed a sword qi, and then thinking about how powerful Lu Zhu, the creator of the supreme pure yang sword qi, Yang Chen did not want to become the target of Lu Zhu's anger. This cemetery is yours. A bonsai with a small sapling appeared in Madame Bai's hand, and she threw it into the hands of Yang Chen like a plague. This is a gift for you juniors. Chapter 2080. When the bonsai was in his hand, Yang Chen's hands were still trembling. After calming down for a while, he handed it to Gong Sunling and asked her to send the bonsai directly into the mountain river geographical map. Whether he could refine it or not was one thing, but he had to accept it first. After entering the mountain river geographical map, it would belong to Gong Sunling. If others wanted to come out, it would depend on their luck. The Zhao family tried their best to get this cemetery, but they didn't expect it to become Yang Chen's property so easily. If they knew this result, they didn't know how much blood the person in charge would vomit. Madame Bai obviously had more than one cave abode, but she didn't invite Yang Chen to her new cave abode. Instead, she stayed in the 5 Elements Dragon Palace with her maid. It seemed that she really planned to stay for a long time. This was also good. Yang Chen's family could be closer to Madame Bai. In the future, when they went to the Immortal world, this was an opportunity that others couldn't even hope for. At this point, Yang Chen's family's action to plunder the cave abode had completely come to an end. Yang Chen didn't want to go back slowly, so he planned to rush back to Chunyang Palace as fast as possible. Then, he would refine the supergiant cave abode and wait for Brother Li Cheng to come and meet him. However, when he mentioned this to Madame Bai, she directly refused. She had slept for many years in the spiritual world. It was not easy to wake up. If she didn't take a good look at the great rivers and mountains of the spiritual world, when would she wait? Therefore, Yang Chen's itinerary became sitting on the ship, slowly passing by each marketplace one by one. When he had nothing to do, he would drink tea and enjoy the scenery on the ship. After arriving at the marketplace, a large group of women happily went shopping. Even Gao Yu and the other women couldn't resist the urge to go shopping after cultivating for a period of time, let alone the peony fairy who had been asleep for many years. When she woke up, she wanted to make up for all the time she wasted sleeping by going shopping. The time she spent in each marketplace was more than 10 times that of Yang Chen's family. Every time they arrived at a market, thousands of women would swarm over the entire market. These women only cared about picking out what they liked. As for the one paying the bill, it was the sucker Yang Chen. Yang Chen was willing to be a sucker. Compared to the meeting gift he would receive, a mere spirit stone was nothing. As long as he could make Madame Bai and her maids happy, he didn't mind buying the entire market. Not to mention other things, Yang Chen had plenty of spirit stones. Fortunately, Madame Bai and the others also knew that it was not good to shock the world, so they each suppressed their cultivation to the earth immortal level, similar to Gao Yu and the others. Otherwise, the sudden appearance of over 1,000 Xian immortal experts, all of whom were beautiful women, would cause the owner of the market to be armed to the teeth. It had only been 2 years since Yang Chen left, but the journey back had taken almost 10 times as long. The last market they passed was the Sunset Cliff. When they arrived at their own place, Yang Chen was even more attentive and attentive. Anything here, as long as Madame Bai and the others liked it, they could take it first. The merchants would settle the bill with Wanbao Tower. Madame Bai still felt a little unsatisfied after spending 20 years shopping all the way back to Chunyang Palace. One could imagine how addicted Madame Bai was to shopping. When they were about to return to Chunyang Palace, Madame Bai asked Yang Chen in boredom, "Boring? Are you going to go into seclusion to solve the problem of your sea of consciousness? You can tell that my sea of consciousness is in trouble?" Yang Chen didn't show it along the way, and he didn't encounter a situation where he was about to make a move. How did Madame Bai find out? Any cultivator can sense that your sea of consciousness is in trouble. Madame Bai rolled her eyes at Yang Chen. Yu Ji and Peony, who were at the side, nodded, indicating that they had also noticed Yang Chen's problem. "Do you have any solution?" Yang Chen asked hopefully. For the time being, Yang Chen could only rely on the white fireball to absorb the power of the golden immortal tribulation bit by bit. However, he could only absorb one strand at a time. It would take many years to completely solve it. Although more than 20 years had passed, the golden immortal tribulation had only been weakened by less than 1%. At this rate, it would probably take 2,000 years for Yang Chen's sea of consciousness to be completely free. "It's simple," Madame Bai said casually. "You just have to become stronger. Or you can stay like this. As long as you don't make a move, it will be a form of training. In the future, when you solve the problem, it will definitely be beneficial." What she said was the truth, but Yang Chen couldn't do either of them at the moment. This was the same as not saying anything. Yang Chen didn't dare to have any objections and listened obediently. "If you guys cultivate in seclusion, what are we going to play?" Madame Bai still felt bored. "Isn't this boring? Why don't you and the sisters go to the human world to play?" Yang Chen racked his brains to make arrangements for Madame Bai and the maids. Otherwise, if they caused trouble, there would definitely be no peace in Chunyang Palace. Under the pressure, he suddenly thought of a good idea and immediately said it out loud. "How do we play?" Madame Bai's interest was piqued. Her eyes lit up and she asked. Yang Chun immediately told her about how he and his wives and concubines went to the world of the Aborigines to play when they were tired from cultivating in the geographical map. He completely hid among the Aborigines, whether they were rich people or emperors, and experienced all kinds of life. There is such a fun place? Madame Bai was instantly tempted. Not to mention the place, such a fun thing was really in line with her appetite. Moreover, as cultivators, they could all understand the benefits of this. It had an immeasurable effect on tempering one's state of mind. They must not miss such a good thing. Madame Bai and the maids were divided into hundreds of small groups and entered the geographical map. Gong Sunling arranged them separately and began to enjoy the game life in the human world. At this point, Yang Chun finally breathed a sigh of relief. At least for a short time, these women would not bother him anymore. It was safe in the geographical map and could temper one's state of mind. Even if he met Ancestor Lu in the future, he could explain it. After settling the Peony Fairy and the others, Yang Chun had almost arrived at Chunyang Palace. Along the way, because he had to serve Madame Bai and the others, Yang Chun did not know much about the events in the spiritual realm. This time, when he returned to the sect, he still needed to make up for it. Yang Chun also needed to understand what happened in Chunyang Palace and pay attention to the movements of the Zhao family. Most importantly, Yang Chun wanted to know what the Xiantian sect had done after taking the Zhao family's manor and what kind of blow it had dealt to the Zhao family. Counting the days, it had been more than 20 years. No matter how long the Xiantian sect had prepared, it should be about time to take action, right? Chapter 2081. Back at Chunyang Palace, Yang Chun immediately went to see the palace master. This was an essential procedure for every trip back. The palace master also explained to Yang Chun the changes in the sect over the years. There were a lot of things to do, but in general, it could all be summed up in a few words: becoming more prosperous day by day. With the increasing number of ascended disciples, Chunyang Palace also ushered in a small climax of development. Mainly during the demonic tribulation in the spiritual world, Chunyang Palace had made a lot of good karma, and now it was time to return the favor. At least when the disciples of the Pure Yang Palace walked outside, those sects that had accepted the blessings of the Pure Yang Palace always gave them some face. There were also dozens of branches in Wanbao Tower, which could be regarded as a big business that covered half of the spiritual world. The Wine Immortal House also slowly had a scale and continued to engage in business in the mortal world. Of course, this was on the surface. In the dark, it was also working hard for Chunyang Palace. The outside was also relatively calm. After the demonic tribulation, everything was going well everywhere. Every sect was working hard to restore the original mountain gate. Relatively speaking, there were fewer disputes in the entire spiritual world. After all, there were still a few sects like the Wind Cloud Palace. No one would pin all their hopes on an illusory relic. Relying on the sect to struggle was the right way. What surprised Yang Chun was that the Xiantian sect had not made any big moves in the past 2 decades, which made Yang Chun very puzzled. However, if he thought about it at a deeper level, it seemed that the Xiantian sect was also normal. After all, the Zhao family had been operating in the core of the trial for many years. Not to mention the monsters and traps in it, it would take a lot of effort to find the Zhao family's nest. It must be known that the core area of the trial was tens of thousands of miles. It was not easy to use spiritual awareness inside. It was not an overnight thing to find the Zhao family's nest, which was hidden very deeply. In particular, the masters who went in first to explore the way had to hide their figures. They must not be discovered by the masters of the Zhao family in order to achieve the purpose of surprise. It was understandable that the Xiantian sect did not make a move until now. But no matter what, the spiritual world that seemed peaceful on the surface concealed the turbulent undercurrents beneath. It could be said that there would soon be a decisive war between the Zhao family and the major sect. As for how fast, it depended on how well prepared sect Master Li was. Yang Chen's family had been wandering outside for more than 20 years and had experienced a lot. Their horizons had been broadened, and everyone began to cultivate in seclusion again. His main goal this time was to refine the supergiant cave mansion. Everything else was in the way. As for the graveyard given by Madame Bai, it was not something that Gong Sunling and her third primordial spirit could refine at the moment because of the powerful heavenly tribulation in it. It was better to wait until Big Brother Li Cheng returned. In fact, during the 20 years on the road, the Mountain River geographical map had almost refined the super-large cave residence, and only the finishing stage was left. However, that was only the initial integration. It would take a period of refinement for it to be completely integrated into the Mountain River geographical map. The spiritual veins and various mineral deposits inside could be considered to be truly integrated with the Mountain River geographical map. There was still no good way to deal with the golden immortal tribulation in Yang Chen's Sea of Consciousness. Although Madame Bai had mentioned it, it was just a suggestion. The real solution was still on Yang Chen himself. He could either improve his cultivation or wait for the white ball to slowly absorb it. If he really used other methods to get the golden immortal tribulation out, it would not be good and it would be a waste of an opportunity. Fortunately, Yang Chen was no longer in danger of his divine sense splitting. He could rest assured and boldly cultivate the supreme mystery Yin-Yang Heart Sutra with his wives and concubines. The efficiency of more than 40 couples cultivating at the same time was twice as high as cultivating alone. Every time he improved his divine sense cultivation, Yang Chen's power to resist the golden immortal tribulation would be stronger. Madame Bai and the maids had a lot of fun in the Mountain River geographical map. Not long after entering, Madame Bai became a world-famous prostitute. She only sold her skills and not her body. She was so charming that the natives of the spiritual world were infatuated with her. For a moment, Madame Bai was in the limelight. Countless people were willing to spend their entire fortune to get close to this beauty. Even if they could not get close to her, it was an honor to be able to take a close look at her. After Yang Chen knew about it, he was speechless. The peony fairy really did not change her bad taste. However, Yang Chen would not say much. No matter what he did, it was to experience the world of mortals and cultivate his mind. There was no need to worry about safety here. As long as Madame Bai was happy, Yang Chen did not need to worry about anything else. Time passed. In the second year after returning, Gong Sunling had basically refined the super-huge cave abode. Now, the Mountain River geographical map was completely stabilized. There was no need to worry about attacks like the mysterious immortal tribulation. Next, there were 3 large sect-level cave abodes to refine, including the one occupied by the Wind Cloud Palace. With the super-huge cave abode as the foundation, it was much easier. The people of the Wind Cloud Palace were still collecting everything in the ancient ruins ecstatically. At the same time, they did not forget that there was a group of people carefully watching the formation at the entrance, for fear that a strong enemy would rush in. However, they would never expect that the strong enemy did not intend to rush in at all. Instead, they planned to refine the cave abode from the outside and kill them all. Perhaps they often inquired about the whereabouts of Yang Chen and his family. When Yang Chen returned to the sect for the 5th year, Brother Li Cheng appeared again. The brothers met again after decade. Naturally, they were happy again. Yang Chen's wives and concubines also welcomed Brother Li Cheng. There were all kinds of good wine and delicious food, which made Brother Li Cheng eat and drink with a smile. What's wrong with your sea of consciousness? Perhaps it was as Madame Bai said. Big Brother Li Cheng also discovered the trouble in Yang Chen's sea of consciousness with one glance. He could not care about anything else and asked about the sea of consciousness first. This dealt a heavy blow to Yang Chen. After all, he was the successor of the 3 Pure Ones Tao ancestors' 3 Pure Ones art. Why did other people see through the changes in his sea of consciousness like there were no secret? Yang Chen did not hide anything. He described the situation during the annual tribulation. Only then did Li Cheng come to a realization. So, it's you. I think it can't be anyone else. At first, I thought that it was triggered by a dragon race expert undergoing his heavenly immortal tribulation. Big Brother Li Cheng's words also vaguely revealed some information. At the very least, when an expert like Ao Lan underwent his heavenly immortal tribulation, he might trigger a higher-level heavenly tribulation. It was just that the number was small. It's not that troublesome. It's just a small tempering. Big Brother Li Cheng directly fixed the nature of the golden immortal tribulation in Yang Chen's Sea of Consciousness. This is very beneficial to the stability of your Sea of Consciousness as long as you can endure it. Yang Chen was very clear on this principle. However, the problem now was that due to the existence of the golden immortal tribulation in his Sea of Consciousness, Yang Chen could no longer make a move. At the very least, he could not make a move against someone with a higher cultivation than him. This was the problem. Chapter 2082. What's the rush? Big Brother Li Cheng looked at Yang Chen's unwilling look and became angry. Others can't even beg for such a good thing, yet you're becoming a burden? Yang Chen hurriedly shook his head. He wasn't the kind of person who didn't know what was good for him. He just felt sullen because he couldn't fight, but it wasn't that he didn't know how to be content. I just feel uncomfortable because I can't fight, Yang Chen explained. In front of this big brother, Yang Chen was still very humble. Whether it was strength or knowledge, Li Cheng surpassed him by a lot. He had no choice but to accept it. You speak as if you often fought in the past. Li Cheng rolled his eyes again and teased him. This was not Li Cheng's nonsense. Even in the spiritual world, Yang Chen's actions were extremely rare. This included encountering the Wind Cloud Palace and being attacked by the experts of the Zhao family. It was Yang Chen's wives and concubines who did it, and it had nothing to do with him. What Yang Chen did the most was sit on the ship, drink wine, and watch. Yang Chen also felt embarrassed. In the past, it was because his opponents were too lousy and he wasn't interested. This time, it was because there was a problem with his Sea of Consciousness and he couldn't fight. Although the reasons were different, the result was the same. Yang Chen watched without lifting a finger. In this case, it didn't matter if Yang Chen's Sea of Consciousness was in trouble, so Yang Chen couldn't refute Big Brother Li Cheng's teasing. Their husband always acted like a little brother being taught a lesson in front of Big Brother Li Cheng, so the women were already used to it. The two concubines serving them held back their laughter and served the two of them, but they didn't say anything. Actually, you sometimes go to a dead end. After Li Cheng drank a cup of wine poured by a beautiful concubine of Yang Chen, he pointed out in exasperation, using the Sea of Consciousness to solve problems with the Sea of Consciousness is very troublesome? Yang Chen was stunned. Using the Sea of Consciousness to solve problems with the Sea of Consciousness? How should he understand this? Yang Chen thought about it but still couldn't figure it out. What a pighead! Li Cheng directly scolded. He was really angry at Yang Chen for not being enlightened at this time. When you're not fighting, what do you usually use your Sea of Consciousness for? To refine my natal flying sword. Yang Chen answered honestly. This was also the answer of most people, but did this have anything to do with solving their own problems? Although he had many intrinsic flying swords, they were basically formed. If he used the golden immortal tribulation to refine them, it would not be refining them, but destroying them. Perhaps a few of them were strong enough to withstand the attack and not be destroyed, but at the very least, a few of the great yin-yang 5 elements flying sword would definitely be destroyed. Who told you to use your natal flying sword? Li Cheng knew what was bothering Yang Chen the moment he saw his confusion. He couldn't help but remind him, don't you have anything that you want to refine but don't have the ability to do so? Or something that you want to use on your natal flying sword? Elder brother Li Cheng had already reminded him so much. If Yang Chen couldn't guess the method that elder brother Li Cheng said, then he would really be a pig. In the Dragon Palace of the Fire Dragon, Yang Chen once got a black interspatial bracelet. That space was not very big, and its only advantage was that it was strong enough. But the material used in the black interspatial bracelet was not simple. The black interspatial bracelet was heavy and strong enough. It was Yang Chen's favorite tool to smash people in the later stage when he didn't use the immortal beheading saber. Now in Yang Chen's hands, in addition to the pure bottle medicine garden, the only thing that he felt comfortable with was this black interspatial bracelet. The material of this bracelet, elder brother Li Qing said before, was used to refine the diamond bracelet. That was the thing that the 3 pure Tao ancestors used in battle. Yang Chen had thought about it many times. Unfortunately, because Yang Chen's strength was not enough, he couldn't refine those materials at all. Wasn't it the best opportunity now? Yang Chen didn't have enough strength to refine the black bracelet, and the golden immortal tribulation raged in his sea of consciousness, making Yang Chen unable to use force. If he used the golden immortal tribulation to refine the black bracelet, wouldn't it be killing 2 birds with 1 stone? Not only did the golden immortal tribulation consume a lot of energy, but it also solved the problem of Yang Chen's sea of consciousness. Anyway, the ultimate purpose of Yang Chen refining the black bracelet was to refine these materials into the immortal beheading saber. In essence, it was still sacrificial refining his natal magic weapon. Sacrificial refining in the sea of consciousness for a long time would not conflict at all. To understand this, Yang Chen hated that he could not slap himself directly in the face. It was such a simple solution, but he had wasted dozens of years of his time. What kind of pig head was that? Don't think that you have wasted these days. Brother Li Qing seemed to be smart and could see through Yang Chen's thoughts at a glance. Don't you think that your Lingshao Hall has become more condensed after being tempered by the golden immortal tribulation for such a long time? That was the truth. This kind of tempering had immeasurable benefits for Yang Chen's divine sense and sea of consciousness. It was just that Yang Chen couldn't get over it. However, Yang Chen also knew that he had been tempered for decades. Although there would be benefits in the long term in the future, the biggest benefit had already been obtained. The rest was just a small part of the icing on the cake. Yang Chen immediately took out the black bracelet in front of brother Li Qing and sent it into his sea of consciousness according to the steps of sacrificial refining his natal magic weapon. The golden immortal tribulation was still raging, but under Yang Chen's intentional control, the black bracelet appeared directly at the bottom of the golden immortal tribulation and faced it directly. As soon as it got close, the huge power of the golden immortal tribulation began to bombard the black bracelet violently. If it were an ordinary magic weapon, it would definitely shatter upon contact. However, the black bracelet was continuously bombarded by the golden immortal tribulation, but it did not change at all. Of course, that was the case on the surface, but every time the golden immortal tribulation bombarded it, a trace of Yang Chen's divine sense would enter the black bracelet. Every bombardment helped Yang Chen refine the bracelet with the golden immortal tribulation. Before this, Yang Chen did not even dare to think about it with his own cultivation. In just a while, the surface of the black bracelet that came into contact with the golden immortal tribulation showed signs of softening. The effect was outstanding. It seemed that as long as he stepped up the sacrificial refining in the future, it would not be an extravagant hope to completely refine the black bracelet into the immortal slaying saber. It would definitely happen in the near future. Most of the golden immortal tribulation's attacks were absorbed by the black bracelet, and the remaining ones were no longer a threat to Yang Chen. Even the white ball had to fight to absorb a part of it, but the power that was distributed was not enough to fill the ball's stomach. This time, the trouble in Yang Chen's sea of consciousness that had been troubling him finally had a perfect solution. Even if he could not use his full strength to control the refining of the black bracelet, he could at least exert half of his strength. Chapter 2083. After getting rid of his greatest worry, Yang Chen then told big brother Li Cheng about his gains during this period of time. The few cave abodes that he expected had to be mentioned. Of course, he didn't hide the parts related to the Wind Cloud Palace. When he heard that the people from the Wind Cloud Palace took the initiative to enter the cave abode for Yang Chen and Gong Sunling to collect, big brother Li Cheng only shook his head in silence. This was the difference in their horizons. The people from the Wind Cloud Palace treated the ancient ruins as a place of refuge, but Yang Chen treated the ancient ruins as a cave abode that he wanted to collect. The result was that the people from the Wind Cloud Palace were completely wiped out, and nothing was left. The super-large cave abode and the pure Yang immortal world were mentioned later. When he heard that there was a super-large cave abode with a radius of over 3 million miles, even with Li Cheng's vast experience, he couldn't help but gasp. What kind of supreme magic treasure could be refined by such a powerful being? How could it be so easily obtained by this kid? When the pure Yang immortal sword appeared again, Li Cheng immediately fell into deep thought. Could it be that even Lu Dongbin had his eyes on the spiritual world? Otherwise, why would he send the pure Yang immortal sword down to the spiritual world? When Yang Chen finished talking about his trip to the Lost Star Pavilion and the Immortal Monarch's tomb, Li Cheng couldn't help but take it seriously. It wasn't surprising that Yang Chen was able to fill in all the poems and songs of the immortal world. Who knew what Yang Chen had talked about with those immortals in the immortal slaying platform? It was simply too normal for him to know some things about the immortal world. However, when he mentioned that he had to use the pure Yang immortal sword to open the third level of the immortal monarch's tomb, and that he had to use the super-large cave abode to withstand the 10 times heavenly immortal tribulation and 10 times Xian immortal tribulation, Li Cheng's expression turned serious. At least in all the years that Yang Chen and Li Cheng had known each other, Yang Chen had never seen Li Cheng with such a serious expression. Of course, this indirectly showed the importance of the tomb, and it also showed how valuable the gift Yang Chen received was. The story continued until Shi Shanshan used the supreme pure Yang sword qi to open the invisible barrier and saved everyone inside. Then, Yang Chen and Yang Chen's family met Madame Bai. Only then did Li Cheng's face reveal a smile. "So, you already know Madame Bai's true identity?" Li Cheng asked Yang Chen. Yang Chen nodded. "That man's confidant is too famous. It's hard not to know her." There were also 2 concubines by his side. Yang Chen didn't want them to know about this right now, so when he talked about Ancestor Lu, he directly used that person to replace him. "I was wondering why I couldn't find the slightest bit of reason after searching all over the world. Turns out it was his doing." Li Cheng let out a long sigh. "This romantic person has brought me a lot of trouble." Yang Chen didn't know what trouble brother Li Cheng was talking about, but if Li Cheng said trouble, then it must be big trouble. "What about the cemetery? Is it still in Madame Bai's hands?" Li Cheng was obviously relieved, and now he started to ask about the whereabouts of the cemetery. That. Yang Chen was a little embarrassed to say it, and he started to stutter. "What this and that? Tell me." Li Cheng was so anxious that he almost slammed the table. At least since Yang Chen knew Li Cheng, he had never seen him lose his composure like this. That Madame Bai felt that living in the cemetery was very inauspicious, and she didn't like it. Yang Chen had to tell the truth. "After I brought her to see the 5 Elements Dragon Palace, she said she wanted to exchange, and I agreed. She exchanged it with you." Li Cheng's expression was very interesting, as if he had seen something unbelievable. Yang Chen swore that he had never seen such an expression on Li Cheng's face. He would never forget that expression of disbelief. "It's good that she exchanged it with you. It's better in your hands than in anyone else's." Brother Li Cheng began to talk to himself. It seemed that this cemetery was really not ordinary. "Don't talk about using the 5 Elements Dragon Palace. Even if she wanted more, I would give it to her. Then she said she didn't want to exchange it." Yang Chen wanted to see brother Li Cheng lose his composure. This was a rare opportunity. Moreover, what Yang Chen said was the truth. Yang Chen didn't lie. She didn't want to exchange it? Li Cheng was really anxious. Then what does she want? Give me a plan, and I will gather it for you. You must exchange it with her. In the blink of an eye, Li Cheng's expression changed. Women are so troublesome. If it wasn't for her relationship with that master, I could just snatch her away. It wouldn't be so troublesome. As expected, Brother Li Cheng wasn't easy to deal with. He openly said that he wanted to snatch Ancestor Lu's lover, the peony fairies thing. He was probably the only one who could say that. At least, Yang Chen didn't have the guts to do that. Later, Yang Chen intentionally sold the suspense and lengthened his voice. Then what? Say it. Li Cheng shouted impatiently. It was rare for him to give Yang Chen a very dissatisfied face. Later, she said that she was an elder and wanted to give the younger brother's family a gift for the younger generation, so she gave the cemetery to the younger brother as a gift. Yang Chen's teasing of Li Cheng was enough, and then he told all the truth. Yang Chen's big breath almost made Li Cheng choke to death. Li Cheng pointed at Yang Chen. His finger trembled, and he couldn't say anything for a long time. Finally, he snatched the wine pot from the little concubine who was holding back her laughter. He took a big gulp and scolded, "Will you die if you don't breathe when you speak? This is not seeing Big Brother every time, so I want to see Big Brother's anxious look." Yang Chen replied with a cheeky smile. The little concubine on the side finally couldn't hold back and laughed. Li Cheng was also amused by Yang Chen and laughed. After laughing for a while, he pointed to Yang Chen and wanted to say something, but he couldn't say it for a while. Finally, he could only take back his finger and asked after a glass of wine, "Say, what good things did you give to the elder?" "There is nothing good." Yang Chen smiled and listed one by one, half of the 4 C's mysterious coral liquid, hundreds of appearance pill and pill recipe, and a beauty cultivation method. The pill recipe and cultivation method are all from the hands of Chang Yi Fairy. Li Cheng was shocked by what Yang Chen said. After a long time, he shook his head and smiled bitterly. Women? He really couldn't understand the thoughts of a woman like Peony Fairy. The preciousness of the cemetery was more than 10,000 times more precious than what Yang Chen took out. If it was him, he would not do such a loss-making business. Big Brother, you still don't understand women. Yang Chen also figured it out later, but this time did not prevent him from teaching Brother Li Cheng. This was a rare opportunity. Women make up for the person they like. Even if Madame Bai can't remember the identity of that person, she is still willing to keep the most beautiful face for him. Big Brother, you should find a woman. Chapter 2084. In the whole world, only Yang Chen dared to make such a joke with Li Cheng. If anyone else, even the sect master of the mysterious heaven sect, said such words in front of Li Cheng, it was estimated that they would be greeted with a sword. Go! Li Cheng was not annoyed and shouted, "I don't cultivate the path of wine, women, wealth, and anger. Our paths are different." The implication was that he should never talk about finding a woman again. Yang Chen also knew that enough was enough and immediately changed the topic. "Big Brother, do you want to see the cemetery now? How should we deal with it, Big Brother? You have to give us a plan." "All right." Li Cheng was in a good mood now that the thing he had been worried about had been solved. However, this thing must be carefully looked at with his own eyes. Otherwise, if something went wrong, Li Cheng did not want to see the consequences. The cemetery was in Gong Suanling's Mountain River geographical map, but it was still an independent cemetery. Gong Sunling did not dare to easily refine it. Once the heavenly tribulation inside could not be controlled, it was estimated that all the creatures in the Mountain River geographical map would only have a dead end. However, there was one good thing. After Madame Bai gave it to Yang Chen could easily leave a divine sense imprint. He did not have to go through the previous tests and could enter the core at any time. What Big Brother Li Qing was interested in was not the poems, nor the manor inside, but the heavenly tribulation in the vast 100,000 miles outside. Standing at the entrance of the manor, Yang Chen and Big Brother Li Qing quietly looked at the empty area. Big Brother Li Qing observed very carefully. After a long time, he made a proposal that scared Yang Chen. "You wait, I will go in and feel it." To be honest, Yang Chen could easily enter the core of the manor by leaving a divine sense imprint. It was simply wishful thinking to want to control the heavenly tribulation. If he could not control the heavenly tribulation, Li Qing would be attacked immediately. How could Yang Chen dare to let him take such a risk? "Don't be afraid, I have special means to protect you." Li Qing patted Yang Chen's shoulder and let him take 2 steps back. Then he walked straight into the heavenly tribulation area. As soon as Li Qing entered, tribulation clouds immediately covered the area. Yang Chen still couldn't understand how these heavenly tribulations were generated inside the cave. Unable to stop Big Brother Li Qing, Yang Chen could only watch helplessly as Big Brother Li Qing began to suffer the attacks of the heavenly tribulation. The things that LV had refined were really good. The distance between the inside and outside of the door was only a few steps, but the inside of the door did not feel any signs of being attacked at all. Li Qing did not go far either. Not far away, he forcibly withstood the attack of the celestial immortal tribulation that was 10 times stronger. Big Brother Li Qing's cultivation seemed to be at the early heavenly immortal stage, but the heavenly immortal tribulation didn't seem to affect him at all. In Yang Chen's opinion, Li Qing was simply a cheater in the spiritual realm. When the girls heard the commotion, they all gathered around to watch. Brother Li Qing's leisurely posture in the midst of the heavenly tribulation made everyone admire him greatly. Which person whose strength had already reached the peak of the heaven immortal stage didn't have to be careful when crossing the tribulation? How could there be someone like Big Brother Li Qing who treated it as if it was nothing? After the celestial immortal tribulation, it was immediately followed by the Xian immortal tribulation. After Brother Li Qing withstood a few strikes, he no longer tried to be brave and quickly retreated. That's right, the most authentic heavenly tribulation. Big Brother Li Qing gave a pertinent evaluation as soon as he returned. This evaluation made everyone speechless. Under the most authentic heavenly tribulation, Big Brother Li Qing was actually unscathed. He was only at the early heavenly immortal stage. This was a little too shocking. After letting the girls busy themselves, Big Brother Li Qing and Yang Chen sat at the table again. This time, they didn't need anyone to accompany them. It was just the 2 of them. All these years, I've always had palpitations. There's a big trouble in my heart that I don't know what it is or where it is. Big Brother Li Qing said very seriously to Yang Chen. After seeing this cemetery, I finally know what the big trouble is. Fortunately, this cemetery fell into your hands. When he spoke, Big Brother Li Qing's face had a long sigh of relief, and the feeling of his tense nerves relaxing had always existed, which made Yang Chen feel a sense of relief. That's the big trouble? Yang Chen asked. That's right. Big Brother Li Qing nodded and replied, You guys don't have the ability to refine this cemetery yet, but you must not let it fall into the hands of the Zhao family. Why is this? Yang Chen still wanted to know more and asked. This kind of good thing, even if it wasn't a greeting gift from Madame Bai, Yang Chen definitely wouldn't let the Zhao family get it. Originally, it wasn't time to let you know, but since the cemetery is in our hands, there's no harm in telling you. Li Qing had completely calmed down at this time. He was drinking with ease. The Zhao family has always been thinking of ways to let the demonic beasts in the demonic beast space go through the heavenly tribulation. Big Brother Li Qing said very cautiously, This cemetery can complete their great undertaking. If it falls into their hands, the consequences will be unimaginable. In other words, the Zhao family already knows that the thing is in my hands. Yang Chen wasn't as relaxed as Big Brother Li Qing and asked with a smile. To be able to mobilize so many experts to force their way into the cemetery, the Zhao family must know a lot of things. No wonder they had to collect it completely from the beginning. So this was their intention. Yes, from now on, you probably won't have a peaceful day. Big Brother Li Qing smiled and nodded. They will use all kinds of tricks from the mysterious heaven sect to you. They will do everything they can to get this cemetery. Can this cemetery be refined? Yang Chen asked again. He wasn't afraid of the Zhao family, but he cared about whether he could refine the heavenly tribulation room and the cemetery. It couldn't be denied that both of them had heavenly tribulation that was beyond the concept of a cave. Yang Chen tried hard to recall the scene of the heavenly tribulation room being obtained by the mysterious heaven sect in his previous life, but it didn't seem to affect the spiritual realm. However, Big Brother Li Cheng's words couldn't be wrong. Now that Yang Chen had a treasure, there would definitely be endless trouble. For the time being, you can't do it with your ability, Big Brother Li Qing replied. Without the ability to refine it, Yang Chen didn't say much. He just asked, the Zhao family wants this just to make the demonic beast space have heavenly tribulation? What do you think? Li Cheng looked at Yang Chen and asked, why did you try to refine the heavenly tribulation room into the mountain river geographical map? The Zhao family also wants to form another world? Yang Chen had already thought of this possibility, but he always felt that it was unrealistic. Now that Big Brother Li Qing said it, it must be the Zhao family's most direct goal. Chapter 2085. Of course, it was more exciting to be in charge of a world than to be bound by the rules of this world. Yang Chen just happened to get the mountain river geographical map, and then a series of events later, so he had the idea of achieving a world. But fundamentally speaking, Yang Chen only had this idea passively, and he had never taken the initiative to have this kind of ambition. The Zhao family was completely different. It was estimated that they had been laying out for tens of thousands of years or even longer, and even their degree of completion was much more than that of the mountain river geographical map. This could be seen from the demon continent and the monster beast space. At least the Zhao family already had two spaces that could be called small worlds, unlike Yang Chen, who was still looking for a cave house space magic weapon to make up for the shortcomings of the mountain river geographical map. From this point of view, now that the Zhao family had robbed the cemetery with the heavenly tribulation, Yang Chen was already a thorn in the side of the Zhao family, and they must get rid of him as soon as possible. Yang Chen was not afraid, but Yang Chen was not the only one worried about in the spiritual world. Not to mention his wives and concubines, but Chunyang Palace was also the focus of Yang Chen's attention. The other party couldn't hit him, but if they used Chunyang Palace to threaten Yang Chen, it would not be a fun thing. Now Yang Chen hated the Xiantian sect a little bit. Why didn't they act faster? If the Xiantian sect's action could be accelerated, the Zhao family might not be able to be distracted for the time being in the face of the Xiantian sect and the other major sects. At least Yang Chen and Chunyang Palace would be safe. But now that the Xiantian sect had not made a move, it made Yang Chen a little passive. Last time, the other party gathered more than 100 Xian Immortal Masters to set up a trap attack, and they immediately retreated when they failed. Who knew how many masters there would be next time? Even if Chunyang Palace had the core cave house in the belly of the Earth Dragon, they couldn't hide in the belly of the Earth Dragon every day and not see anyone, right? In that case, Chunyang Palace would completely become a turtle, and they would definitely be ridiculed by the world. The Zhao family has worked hard. It turns out that they knew about that person's arrangements. Big Brother Li Qing didn't pay attention to Yang Chen's thoughts at this time. Instead, he was calculating something at his own pace. I'm afraid he didn't take the initiative to arrange it this way, but he was bewitched by someone else. Li Qing said to himself, and no one could understand what he was saying. Combining the cause and effect of this matter, Yang Chen could hear some of it, but he was still unclear what exactly happened. What an arrogant guy! He probably knows that he's been tricked by someone else. Li Qing had a gloating expression on his face. The Zhao family definitely won't let anyone ruin their plan, so that person must have been hindered by someone. Yang Chen knew that the person Big Brother Li Qing was talking about was Ancestor Lu, but he didn't think that the Zhao family would dare to scheme against Ancestor Lu. He immediately widened his eyes in shock. How is this possible? Nothing is impossible. Even the gods take a nap. Even the Jade Emperor can be beheaded by you. What else is impossible? Li Qing saw Yang Chen's surprise and knew what he was surprised about, so he explained casually. But this explanation didn't matter. Yang Chen was shocked again. Could it be that the change of ownership of the Heavenly Court was also a subtle arrangement of the Zhao family? Isn't the Zhao family's plot too big? Instead, it's better for the Zhao family to control the Heavenly Court themselves. Isn't it easier than struggling to build a world? The Zhao family wants to be secretive. This is their biggest weakness. Li Qing ignored Yang Chen's emotions and said, many times in order to hide their strength, they have to pay some heavy prices, which also gives us a chance. Yang Chen deeply agreed with this point. At least the core of the demon continent and the exit of the monster beast space were refined by Yang Chen when the Zhao family didn't pay attention. He didn't know why they didn't carry out this kind of refinement. Maybe there were other reasons. In any case, the Zhao family was now the life and death enemy of the major sect, and the two sides were irreconcilable. If they knew the Zhao family's plot, it was estimated that they would do their best to destroy the Zhao family as soon as possible, so as not to cause trouble. For the time being, the Zhao family doesn't dare to touch Yu and Chunyang Palace at will. Li Qing knew that Yang Chen cared about Chunyang Palace and finally began to comfort him. Madame Bai and so many maids you brought back, each of them is a Xian Immortal level master. More than 1,000 Xian Immortal masters. If they don't want both sides to suffer, they will definitely not act rashly. This was true. Yang Chen was relieved to hear this. Fortunately, he took Madame Bai and the others to go shopping in various markets along the way. Although Madame Bai and the others hid their cultivation well and did not attract the attention of ordinary cultivators in the market, there were always cultivators who could see through their disguise. They knew that Yang Chen had more than 1,000 Xian Immortal masters here, but they still wanted to provoke them. The Zhao family was not such a fool. However, Yang Chen was still a little worried. According to Yang Lan's information, the Zhao family had recently let a few young direct descendants take charge of some affairs. Would these guys make the wrong decision? Do you have a backup plan for the Xiantian sect to deal with the Zhao family? Li Qing called out the situation that Yang Chen had painstakingly created before. Yang Chen was not surprised at all. If Brother Li Qing couldn't even see through this, then he would not be Brother Li Qing. Yes, but the Xiantian sect has been slow to make a move. Yang Chen honestly told him about the manner that he gave to the Xiantian sect's Zhao family. All right, let them take over first. Brother Li Qing didn't seem to have a good impression of the Xiantian sect. Since you want to be the #1 Dao sect, you must be prepared to pay the price. Then what should we do next? Yang Chen didn't care about the life and death of the Xiantian sect, so he immediately asked. Let's wait for you to recover for a while, then we'll do something drastic. Li Qing estimated that he had found the key to solving the problem. He was very relaxed without pressure. The Zhao family is so proud now, they must not think that their backyard will be on fire. What fun thing! Seeing Brother Li Qing so happy, Yang Chen was also happy and couldn't help but ask. Yang Chen was also very happy to kick the Zhao family's ass. Do you want to see the real demon continent? Li Qing smiled and turned to ask Yang Chen. It's not the continent in the mortal world, it's the place behind the core that you refined. Then we must go and see it. Yang Chen's face also showed an excited look. When he was in the mortal world, Yang Chen had been thinking about going to the other side one day. Now that Brother Li Qing said this, it must be the right time. Something that could make the Zhao family flustered was what Yang Chen was most happy about. If the Zhao family could still launch a large-scale attack against the Xiantian sect at this time, then things would be even more perfect. Chapter 2086. Everyone was in the Earth Immortal realm, and it was enough to go to the Demon Continent. However, it would take some time to repair it. The Mountain River geographical map needed to be carefully integrated and condensed, and Gong Sunling still needed to work hard. Shi Shanshan had only initially refined the pure yang immortal sword, and these days, she also had to speed up the refining of the immortal sword into her life flying sword. The other women also needed a simple retreat to digest what they had gained over the years. Yang Chen needed a little time to strengthen his spiritual awareness and solve the troubles of the golden immortal tribulation. Of course, the most important thing was cultivation base. Everyone still needed to cultivate more. It was not an easy thing to open the exit of the Demon Continent. According to the estimation of elder brother Li Qing, even if Yang Chen had refined the core of the Demon Continent, it would take at least 50 years to open a hole for them to enter and exit. Fortunately, this matter could be done by the third primordial spirit. When Yang Chen separated the third primordial spirit, he had already handed over the core of the Demon Continent and the exit of the beast space to the third primordial spirit. In the future, the worlds related to these two space exits would probably fall on the Mountain River geographical map. Cultivation was important, but a request from the head of the palace made Yang Chen start to think. The head of the palace was also in view of the fact that many disciples of the sect were injured and became disabled during the demonic tribulation. Cultivators had a very strong recovery ability. Generally, minor injuries could basically be healed by self-recovery, and serious injuries had to be treated by some elixirs. But some disabilities could not be solved for the time being. Apart from some gifted demons who were able to regrow their limbs after being crippled, few other cultivators were able to do this. However, there were many such disciples, and most of them were injured by the beasts in the demonic tribulation. Physical disability had always been the focus of alchemists, but this problem could not be solved at all in the spiritual world in Yang Chen's memory. At least it could be solved completely after he got to the immortal world and had the 8th grade medicinal pill. The strongest alchemist in the spiritual world was only in the 7th grade, and if he wanted to refine an 8th grade medicinal pill, he would not be able to do so. In fact, many alchemy masters had already thought of some pill recipes and could refine some pills that were not very strong to solve the problem. However, it was only effective for some minor injuries, such as missing a finger or toe. If the limbs were too many or too big, it was basically useless. The head of the palace wanted to let Yang Chen try to solve this problem and get some benefits for the disabled disciples in the sect. The key was that after the treatment, they could regain their confidence in the sect and their own cultivation. This was an immeasurably good thing for the sect. Yang Chen accepted the task of the head of the palace. Taking the opportunity of retreat, he began to study the medicinal pills that could regenerate limbs. It wasn't that Yang Chen was being arrogant. There were several reasons why Yang Chen was very confident. On one hand, with Brother Li Qing by his side, some things could be easily discussed. Although Big Brother Li Qing had almost never seen him concoct pills, Yang Chen admitted that he was no match for his understanding of the Tao of alchemy. On the other hand, Yang Chen had a lot of 4C's mysterious coral liquid, which was enough for Yang Chen to squander it for alchemy. One of the reasons why this type of medicinal pill could not be successfully refined in the spiritual world was that it was extremely difficult to refine. Some medicinal herbs were incompatible, and there was enough 4C's mysterious coral liquid to effectively neutralize the balance. Maybe it could be successful without the 8th grade refining. Of course, the final trump card was the merit chapter. If it didn't work, Yang Chen would use a lot of merits to give some benefits to the disciples of his sect. Yang Chen would not be stingy. Anyway, Yang Chen's sacrificial refining of the black jade bracelet had been carried out automatically in his sea of consciousness. The golden immortal tribulation did not hinder Yang Chen's thinking and research. This matter was also done in passing and would not delay other things. First of all, what Yang Chen had to do was to collect enough monster race flesh and blood that could be regenerated. Even Miss Lan, who happened to return to the sect, did not escape. The octopus had this instinct, so after Miss Lan was left with a lot of flesh and blood by Yang Chen, he directly threw her into the mountain river geographical map and let her and the old tree demon Ho Yun Shi Kuei and Xie Sha go to the original world of the monster race to play. The medicinal pills of the immortal world also used this ability of these creatures to stimulate the flesh and blood of the disabled. Under the support of the medicinal power, the broken limbs could be regenerated. The principle was not complicated. However, Yang Chen was at most a 7th-grade alchemist master in his previous life. He had not yet touched the edge of this kind of medicinal pill. This time, Yang Chen used his own knowledge of medicinal herbs and alchemy to study a new kind of medicinal pill. When he told his plan to Brother Li Qing did not object. He was willing to point out some of the principles to Yang Chen, but the specific work of alchemy had to be carried out by Yang Chen himself. With this guarantee from Brother Li Qing, Yang Chen was naturally more assured. First, he drafted a prescription in theory, and then began to ponder it step by step, filling in and modifying it until he felt that it was almost the same, and then he looked for Brother Li Qing to comment. After Li Qing pointed it out, Yang Chen modified it according to Brother Li Qing's advice. After a few times, he finally perfected a 7th-grade pill. This was a brand new medicinal pill, completely different from the 8th-grade medicinal pills in the immortal world. The principle was similar, but whether it was the difficulty of refining or the medicinal materials, it was much simpler. Of course, the most important thing was that the use of the 4 C's mysterious coral liquid was very large, so large that some immortal world alchemists could feel pain. It was said that the difficulty was low, but that was relative to the 8th-grade medicinal pill. At least Yang Chen knew very well that the difficulty of refining this new medicinal pill was no less than that of the Yun Marrow pill. Even if the pill recipe was made public, more than 90% of the 7th-grade alchemist masters in the spiritual world could only sigh helplessly. After the pill recipe was determined, Yang Chen began to try to refine it. With Yang Chen's current ability, refining a 6th-grade medicinal pill was more than enough, but refining a 7th-grade medicinal pill was relatively difficult. When necessary, he had to use the help of the merit chapter to succeed. At the beginning, it was also a familiar process. Yang Chen had wasted almost 100 furnaces in a row, and only then did he accurately grasp the trick and key points of refining this medicinal pill. At this point, the initial refining familiarity work was completely completed. When refining again, Yang Chen carefully used all his skills, and at the last critical moment, he also used the merit chapter, and finally succeeded in refining a qualified medicinal pill. This brand new medicinal pill was named Broken Limb Regeneration Pill by Yang Chen and Li Qing. The name was simple and crude, and at first glance, you could know what the function of the medicinal pill was. After the refining of the medicinal pill was completed, the next step was to actually test the medicinal effect of the medicinal pill. This would take a long time, and a large number of test subjects were needed. This time, Yang Chen did not dare to use the sect's disciples to test the medicine. He would first find some monsters, cut off their limbs for treatment, and then try it again. When it was successful on the monsters, he would talk about other things. Chapter 2087. On some monsters that originally had the ability to regenerate, the medicinal pill was very successful. Compared with the self-recovery of those monsters, whether it was the speed or the condition after recovery, it was much better. However, on those monsters that did not have the ability to regenerate, the medicinal effect of the medicinal pill was not so sufficient. It was not to say that it did not exist, but it was only a little stronger than the ordinary recovery ability. It could only grow apart, but complete regeneration was still impossible. At first, Yang Chen thought that the medicinal power of this medicinal pill was not enough to support the spiritual power needed for rebirth, so he fed a few more. However, the results still made Yang Chen very dissatisfied. The medicinal power was enough, but the limbs that grew out were deformed. This was the case with several monsters that were tested. It could be said that this first version of the broken limb regeneration pill had been a complete failure. If he wanted to restudy a brand new medicinal pill, it was not a matter of overnight success. It was normal to have several dozens or even hundreds of failures. Yang Chen did not feel that there was anything abnormal about this at all, and he was not discouraged. This was the first failure. Although it had been a complete failure, it did play a role in stimulating growth. This direction was correct. What he needed to solve now was the problem of growth deformity. Originally, Yang Chen wanted to discuss it with Big Brother Li Qing again, but Big Brother Li Qing also found a time to retreat, saying that he thought of a breakthrough in cultivation. This time, Yang Chen could only face this problem alone. The limbs that grew out were deformed. Yang Chen carefully studied these deformed limbs and found that there were characteristics of several monsters in them. There were octopus-like brachiopods, gecko's broken tail, and even some characteristics of the internal organs of sea cucumbers. In other words, the medicinal properties of these creatures that provide regenerative capabilities interfere with each other, and the most important thing was that they still retain the characteristics of the original species, which was a big taboo. It was impossible to let the human cultivator grow an octopus brachiopod, and it was impossible to let the tiger monster and wolf monster grow a gecko's tail. This aspect still needed to be refined, and the characteristics of those unique species would be removed, leaving only the part of the medicinal power of pure regeneration. With this goal, Yang Chen's research also had a focus. With his golden immortal level spiritual awareness, it was not too difficult to consciously control the various flames in the profound spirit furnace during the refining process to refine and purify some medicinal properties. However, it was easy to think about it, but it was another matter to actually do it. Not to mention anything else, just choosing a suitable fire seed was a big problem. Yang Chen now has more than 10,000 kinds of fire seeds in the profound spirit furnace, each of which is different. Even if some fire seeds with violent attributes were not suitable at first glance, choosing the most suitable one from the remaining half of the fire seeds meant that Yang Chen had to experiment at least a few thousand times. Alchemists needed to be familiar with the medicinal properties of the herbs and the nature of the fire. More importantly, they needed to be familiar with the different reactions of each herb under different fire seed. This was a very complicated process. Yang Chen patiently and endured the loneliness. He experimented one by one, recording each one in detail. In the end, he had to summarize and compare them. Finally, after spending more than 30 years, he found the most suitable fire seed for each material. This step alone could eliminate more than 99% of the alchemists in the spiritual realm. The rest of the pitiful ones were those who happened to have the fire seeds that Yang Chen found and could control them. Sometimes the high-level alchemists may not be able to refine some complex medicinal pills. The reason is this. Only by selecting 18 kinds of high-grade fire seeds that have been upgraded by the white fire seeds, can the medicinal properties that can stimulate the body to grow again be purified in some of the flesh and limbs of the 18 kinds of regenerative monsters. After these pretreatments, he used the original pill recipe to refine a batch of more than a dozen pills. Yang Chen once again took the second version of the regrowth pill and began to experiment. Experimenting on those regenerative monsters, the effect was even better, and the regeneration speed and regeneration effect were very obvious. Next, he experimented on ordinary monsters, and this time he finally saw the effect that Yang Chen wanted. The monsters whose limbs were cut off by Yang Chen's own knife, all the broken limbs grew back within a few days. The growth effect was good, but there were still some small flaws and a little deformity. However, this time the deformity was very obvious, and there was a characteristic of the regenerative monsters. The problem was estimated to be that the flesh and blood of the regenerative monsters had not been purified enough, and it still carried the characteristics of that creature. Yang Chen immediately reprocessed the flesh and blood of the monsters separately and refined the pill again. This time, the broken limbs of the ordinary monsters that were cut off grew out completely. The fastest one took 3 days, and the slowest one took half a month. The success of the experiment on the monsters was not the final success. Yang Chen also needed to test it on the cultivators. This required the cultivators to test the medicine. Yang Chen would certainly not cut off his own limbs to test the medicinal properties. Fortunately, there were many disciples in Chunyang Palace with such disabilities and injuries. According to the requirements of Yang Chen, the head of the palace sent almost 10 disabled cultivators, 5 human cultivators and 5 monster cultivators, to experiment together. The 5 cultivators were all at the bottom of the Chunyang Palace. They had never had the opportunity to have such a close contact with the famous young palace master, Master Yang. Hearing that Yang Chen was studying the medicinal pill for the regeneration of broken limbs this time, their hearts were excited and looking forward to it, but they were also a little nervous. Originally, Yang Chen's research on this kind of medicinal pill had given them a lot of hope, but they were very afraid that if Yang Chen's medicinal pill was not successful, their only hope would be shattered again. Yang Chen briefly introduced the current situation of the broken limb regeneration pill to them. In order to increase their confidence, he also cut off the limbs of 2 different monsters on the spot, and then fed them the broken limb regeneration pill, and let 10 Chunyang Palace disciples personally see the effect. Half a month later, the 10 Chunyang Palace trial disciples could not suppress the excitement in their hearts, and they could not wait for their turn to take the medicine. The taste of being disabled was not good, and everyone hoped that they were a normal cultivator. Don't be happy too early. Yang Chen saw the excitement of everyone, but opened his mouth to pour cold water on everyone. The medicinal pill works on the monsters, but it may not work on the cultivators, so I want you to test the medicine. The sense of expectation of everyone did not reduce too much. His family's famous young palace master seemed to have never disappointed anyone in the field of alchemy. Everyone understood the truth of what Yang Chen said, but they never doubted that Yang Chen would fail. I can guarantee that even if it is not successful, there will be no damage. Yang Chen still had to say some ugly words first, so that when the test failed, he would not complain, and you have to be prepared to suffer. Sometimes, if you fail, it is likely that I will cut off the limbs that grow, and you will have to suffer physical pain. Chapter 2088. What Yang Chen said was not a problem for these cultivators at all. If they could regrow their limbs just by suffering some physical pain, then they would be willing to endure the cruelest punishment in the world. 5 human cultivators and 5 beast cultivators went to different rooms and consumed the limb regeneration pill, then quietly waited for a miracle to happen. For some cultivators, they were very lucky. Not long after they consumed the pill, their already regrown severed limbs felt numb and itchy. Needless to say, this was the feeling of the flesh and blood regrown. Everyone was injured in battle, so they knew what it felt like to have a wound heel. Compared to demonic beasts, cultivators needed to consume a lot more spiritual power, and similarly, it took a lot more time. 2 days later, the severed limbs of these lucky cultivators had significantly regrown. They looked no different from before, but the growth was too slow. According to this speed, not to mention half a month, even half a year would not be able to fully regrow. But for these cultivators, so what if it was half a year? Even if it was 1 or 2 years, so what? Would cultivators care about a mere 1 or 2 years? As long as they could fully regrow, it was not a big problem at all. But for some other cultivators, they were not very lucky. Although they also felt numb and itchy, it was just a feeling, and they did not see the actual effect. After a few days, the original severed limbs still looked the same, without any change. This made them anxious and apprehensive. They clearly saw the demonic beast's severed limbs growing back, and they also felt the numb and itchy of the new flesh and blood, but why was there no effect? Fortunately, everyone was separated, and no one knew the effect of the others. Otherwise, wouldn't these few cultivators who did not have any significant effect be anxious to death? Yang Chen observed their recovery every day, and he had expected such a different growth situation. However, the one with the best effect still grew so slowly, which was clearly beyond Yang Chen's expectations. Why was this? Yang Chen began to study. Could not be explained just because cultivators needed more spiritual power. Moreover, it seemed that there were human cultivators and demonic cultivators among those who failed, but for the time being, he could not see any difference between them and those who had good effects. Could it be because of the different cultivation methods? Yang Chen fell into deep thought. Of course, thinking alone would not solve the problem. With no other choice, Yang Chen could only check their bodies one by one, ask about their cultivation situation, and carefully investigate what they were feeling at every moment. After inspecting them countless times and finding no signs that would affect their growth, they suddenly heard a cultivator say that after his severed arm was healed, his meridians were not healed. They were missing a portion, and even cultivation became much more difficult. Hearing this, Yang Chen's eyes lit up. He seemed to have touched something. Why were demon beasts able to regenerate so quickly? Because they didn't know how to cultivate, and because they took the pill right after they cut off their meridians hadn't grown and changed shape yet, so the effect of the pill was good. The cultivators who were testing the medicine had been injured for a long time, and their wounds had healed for many years. Even their meridians had changed. Naturally, they were worlds apart from those demonic beasts. Thinking of this, Yang Chen also understood some of the key points. Quickly, he found the disciple with the worst effect. He hadn't improved at all for more than a month. I found the problem, but I want you to suffer a little. Yang Chen's words gave hope to the disciple who was already in despair. As long as his severed arm could regrow, suffering a little was nothing. I want to cut off all the parts of your body that have already grown. Yang Chen didn't hide what he was doing and quickly explained, because this part of your meridians has already grown completely, and it's completely different from your original condition. Plus, because of the modification of your meridians, the cultivation method and the spiritual power flow have changed, so the effect of the medicine can't be completely effective. Needless to say, the disciple understood Yang Chen's meaning. He wanted him to directly cut off the part of the meridians that had already grown, and the meridians that hadn't changed before would start to regenerate. There was nothing to say about it. In any case, the disciple's leg was already broken. If he cut off the long part, it would just be a bit shorter. Even if the medicine didn't work, the worst result would be this, and it was definitely acceptable. Even without Yang Chen doing anything, the disciple directly took out his flying sword and cut off a small part of his broken leg. Yang Chen explained clearly that it was best to grow from the meridians that hadn't changed. Therefore, he was afraid that there would be a problem, so he deliberately cut off a little more. A limb regeneration pill quickly took effect after it entered his stomach. This time, Yang Chen found the right problem. In 3 days, the disciple who originally only had a small part of his thigh grew a full knee, and half of his calf grew back. Looking at this speed, it would only take another 3 to 5 days for him to fully recover. Naturally, every cultivator who tested the medicine did the same. Except for a monster race cultivator who had lost an arm at the shoulder, the remaining 9 cultivators all grew back most of their limbs within a few days after cutting off the part that had grown. It was estimated that the one who took the longest would only need a month to become a normal person. This made the 9 disciples pleasantly surprised. After so many years, they had accepted the fact that they were disabled, but now young Palace Master Yang Chen had made them normal again. The only one who was unhappy was the monster race cultivator who had lost an arm at the shoulder. Everyone else was growing well, but he was the only one who didn't have a significant effect, which made him very disappointed. Don't worry, your situation is only a little troublesome, it's not impossible. Of course, Yang Chen saw his disappointment and comforted him. Don't worry, I've already thought of a way, but your situation will suffer a little more, don't worry. As soon as he heard that he could recover after suffering a little more, the demonic cultivator immediately beamed with joy. No matter how much suffering, could it be worse than being a cripple for the rest of his life? A moment of suffering in exchange for a lifetime of hope, it was worth it. Your part needs to be cut off a little more, it's more dangerous, so you need a Ganoderma jade dew pill to keep your life. Yang Chen quickly explained, cutting off most of the shoulder may also affect the lungs, so the recovery time will be longer. Of course, the suffering will definitely be the most. But I promise you will recover in the end, trust me. Yang Chen patted the monster race cultivator's shoulder and said with a smile, if you want to blame someone, you can only blame yourself for not getting injured. If you just slightly tilted, you wouldn't have to suffer so much, right? Chapter 2089. Yang Chen's words made the beastkin cultivator smile bitterly. If he could choose how he was injured, he might as well choose not to be injured. In a split second, his skill was not as good as others. It was already good that he could keep his life. How could he complain that the other party hurt him in the wrong place? However, he didn't dare to refute Yang Chen's words. Not to mention that Yang Chen was the current attending physician. His other identity was the young palace master of Chunyang Palace. He was just a small disciple, and he didn't dare to be rude to the young palace master. Of course, the most important thing was that Yang Chen said that he could restore him to his original state. Under this premise, not to mention a little teasing, even if Yang Chen got angry and beat him up, he would obediently be beaten on the left side of his face, and then send the right side of his face. This time, Yang Chen didn't let the beastkin cultivator do it himself, but Yang Chen did it himself. A 6 revolutions merit Ganoderma mushroom jade pill and a 6 revolutions broken limb regeneration pill were both in his mouth, waiting for Yang Chen to make a move, and they would be swallowed into his abdomen. That's right, the broken limb regeneration pill was only a 6th grade medicinal pill. As long as it was refined at the 6th grade, it could fully exert its effect. There was no need for a higher level of refining. This was also the best pill recipe that Yang Chen had developed based on his current level of alchemy. He was afraid that the anesthetic medicinal pill and the medicinal effect would counter each other, so he had to rely on his perseverance to cut off half of the beastkin cultivator's shoulder. He couldn't faint, otherwise all his previous efforts would be in vain. Fortunately, he was a cultivator and he still had this bit of endurance. Besides, as long as he persisted until he swallowed the medicinal pill in his mouth into his abdomen, it was not a particularly difficult task. The only thing that required manpower was the continuous pain. Yang Chen arrived very quickly. This was the skill that he learned when he was an executioner in the mortal world and killed the underground spiritual beasts in the immortal fallen abyss. Before the beastkin cultivator disciple had time to feel the pain, Yang Chen had already pointed a finger on his throat, and he involuntarily swallowed the 2 medicinal pills. Only at this moment did the demon cultivator disciple feel the pain, but in just a few breaths, the medicinal effect of the Ganoderma hollow pill had already taken effect, and the severe pain had also been reduced a lot. It was absolutely within the range that he could endure. Then, under his pleasantly surprised gaze, the wound stopped bleeding, and new flesh and bones appeared little by little. Even though it was slow, it was still visible to the naked eye. At this point, the 10 disciples who had tested the medicine had all entered the recovery stage. The only thing that mattered was how long it would take for them to recover. However, judging from the current situation, no one was dissatisfied. The only problem that was not a big problem was that the new limbs had not been nourished and tempered for a long time. Compared to the original body, they were still relatively weaker. However, this required long-term tempering of spiritual power in the future, and it had nothing to do with the medicinal effect. This result made all 10 of the disciples who tested the medicine overjoyed. The crippled cultivator had become a normal person. The newly grown body would take at most 2 years to be exactly the same as a normal one. Such an effect was enough to prove that the limb regeneration pill had been perfectly refined. However, the disciples who tested the medicine were satisfied, but Yang Chen was not very satisfied. After all, it could only be aimed at the situation where the newly injured meridians had not grown bad. Those who had been disabled for many years would inevitably suffer a cut. In this regard alone, this limb regeneration pill was not perfect. In terms of alchemy, the broken limb regeneration pill was the only one in Yang Chen's memory besides the combination of medicinal pills. It was a medicinal pill that was researched by himself. Yang Chen still hoped that the broken limb regeneration pill could be more perfect. Therefore, the final version of the limb regeneration pill, Yang Chen would need a period of time to perfect it and launch it. Just because of this? The palace master sat in front of Yang Chen and listened to Yang Chen's answer. He couldn't help but exclaim in surprise. Yes. Yang Chen nodded. But there will be some complications in the meridians, so it is a bit troublesome to study, and we need to find some different disabled cultivators. The palace master was already speechless. For this reason, the release of the limb regeneration pill was delayed, which was simply intolerable. Although it was better for cultivators to achieve perfection no matter what they did, it also depended on the situation. Let's do this. The palace master would not easily ask Yang Chen to change his original intention of pursuing the perfect pill recipe, but at the moment, he could compromise. You first refine a batch of the current limb regeneration pill, and let the disciples of the sect use it first. As for what you said about in-depth research, you can study it slowly. How about it? This request was not excessive, and Yang Chen certainly would not refuse. This was the palace master of his own sect, his closest elder. Moreover, Yang Chen was also very clear that he wanted to pursue the perfection of the pill recipe because he pursued the extreme, but for those disciples who had been disabled for a long time, it was very difficult. After spending almost 5 years again, Yang Chen refined almost 3006 revolutions limb regeneration pills, all of which were handed over to the palace master, and he was responsible for distributing them to the disabled disciples. Some disciples similar to the last monster cultivator also needed to be assigned an additional 6 revolutions merit Ganoderma mushroom jade pill, and a higher cultivation base was needed to help. Some difficult special cases were still sent to Yang Chen, so that Yang Chen could do it himself, and at the same time, Yang Chen could learn more from these difficult special cases. Everyone understood Yang Chen's mind. In order to make these more difficult special cases easily solved, he would pursue a more perfect pill recipe. This was the ultimate pursuit of Master Yang of alchemy. At least the disciples of Chunyang Palace were still very impressed. With such a pursuit, there was Yang Chen's current alchemy realm. When refining, he was still cautious and difficult at the beginning. After a few consecutive furnaces, he slowly became familiar with it, and the number of medicinal pills refined was also a lot more. In the process of refining, Yang Chen could still feel the improvement of his alchemy level. At least now Yang Chen could be completely sure that he had made progress compared to his previous life. In his previous life, he was at most a 7th grade alchemist master, but now Yang Chen had not yet reached the 8th grade, but he believed that entering the 8th grade was only a matter of time. This was beyond the achievements of his previous life. Although Yang Chen had far exceeded this stage in his previous life in terms of cultivation, Yang Chen had not broken through his previous life in alchemy, and now he finally saw the dawn. The early pharmacology of the broken limb regeneration pill was studied with Big Brother Li Qing, but the later improvement and refining were all completed by Yang Chen alone. From this point of view, the most difficult and crucial step was the credit of Yang Chen alone. It could also be said that this broken limb regeneration pill was the credit of Yang Chen alone. To be able to truly research a new kind of medicinal pill and still reach the medicinal effect of the 8 Revolutions medicinal pill in the immortal world, this was the proudest place of Yang Chen. Chapter 2090. The reason why he had to pursue perfection was that the 8th grade medicinal pill would not require the disabled person to cut off the part that had grown. This was also the gap between Yang Chen's 6th grade medicinal pill and the medicinal pill in the immortal world, and Yang Chen's pursuit was to narrow the gap between the two as much as possible. After handing over the medicinal pill to the head of the palace, Yang Chen temporarily ignored these things. On the one hand, he studied a more perfect pill recipe, on the other hand, he also had to take care of his cultivation. However, Yang Chen was very calm, but the outside world was directly set off a great uproar because of the appearance of the broken limb regeneration pill. There were many disabled disciples in Chunyang Palace, but 3,000 pills were enough for those disabled disciples in the sect. This was the welfare of the sect, but the broken limb regeneration pill must be exchanged with the contribution of the sect. Seeing that this was the first batch, the disciples were allowed to owe the contribution of the sect if they did not have enough. After they recovered, they would contribute to the sect to make up for it. When someone discovered that the disciples who had been disabled for many years in Chunyang Palace suddenly became normal people, the news of the broken limb regeneration pill in Chunyang Palace could no longer be hidden. Master Yang Chen, who studied this medicinal pill, directly became an influential figure again. The spiritual world had never been a peaceful place. Almost every sect had a group of disabled cultivators due to various reasons. With the addition of the devil tribulation, there were a lot more. This group of cultivators, except for the cultivators of the sect, who had to cultivate with disabled people, most of them were trying to recover. But the reality was cruel. Most of them could only look forward to working hard to ascend to the immortal world and then get the 8th grade medicinal pill from the immortal world. Suddenly, all the disabled cultivators in Chunyang Palace had recovered, which made countless people begin to focus their attention on Chunyang Palace again. The major sect was very clear about what happened and directly sent the core high-level members of the sect to visit Chunyang Palace. There were many disabled disciples in each major sect. The more disciples in the sect, the more this was the case. This had quickly become a worry of the major sect. However, no one had a particularly good solution. They could only give everyone a faint hope of ascending to the immortal world. The emergence of the broken limb regeneration pill directly let everyone see the solution to the problem. The most important thing was that the medicinal pill refined by Grandmaster Yang Chenyang was only a 6th grade medicinal pill. The senior alchemist masters of the major sects may be competent. What everyone cared about the most was whether they could buy Grandmaster Yang's pill recipe. If this problem could be solved in one fell swoop, it would be of great benefit to the sect. After the disabled disciples were cured, the sect's strength would also increase. At the same time, with the limb regeneration pill's formula, the disciples would have more confidence in battles. In short, it was a win-win situation for the sect. Many impatient disabled cultivators couldn't wait to rush to Chunyang Palace with all their belongings. No matter what price they had to pay, they were willing to ask for a limb regeneration pill. When they heard that Yang Chen felt that the current broken limb regeneration pill still needed to be cut to bring pain to patients, so it was not perfect and could not be launched to the outside world, they didn't know how many disabled cultivators were spitting out old blood. What was this? With the gathering of all parties, the auction house of the Sunset Rock Wanbao Tower had one more treasure to be auctioned. Elder Wu Xiong's laughter echoed in the Wanbao Tower for a few days. Some people were happy, naturally, some people were very unhappy. The most unhappy ones were a group of secret experts of the Zhao clan. After so many years of careful preparation, the Zhao clan sent a team of elite experts to sneak into Linyang River, carefully sneak into Chunyang Palace, and take the top management of Chunyang Palace hostage, so that Yang Chen would hand over the cemetery that they had been seeking for many years. Most of the things had been carried out, and the plan had been made. Suddenly, the news of the limb regeneration pill broke out in Chunyang Palace. At this time, almost all the eyes in the world were focused on it. The experts of the 5 major Taoist sects of Sheeping Mountain rushed to Linyang River as soon as they received the news and began to protect near Chunyang Palace. This was not only their promise to Chunyang Palace and Yang Chen in the past, but also a gesture to make Chunyang Palace and Yang Chen appreciate it. Later, more and more disabled experts arrived, so that the Zhao clan's carefully crafted plan directly became a bubble. Playing small tricks under the eyes of so many experts, did they think that it was not early enough to be discovered? Once they took action, they believed that they would soon be attacked by these experts who took the initiative to protect Chunyang Palace. The Zhao clan had only lost a few experts for a few years, and they did not have the courage to lose a large number of experts again. There was no other way. These elites of the Zhao clan who came in high spirits could only leave resentfully. If they did not leave now, in a few days, more and more experts would arrive, and they would not be able to leave even if they wanted to. Whether it was Chunyang Palace or the major sect, they did not expect that Yang Chen's instruction would quietly resolve the crisis of Chunyang Palace for the sake of the prescription of the elixir for the disabled disciples of the sect. At least before the experts of the major sect withdrew, the Zhao clan or other experts with ulterior motives should not think about attacking Chunyang Palace again. When Yang Chen was in the mortal world, he had good cooperation with the major sect in refining elixirs. Whether it was elixirs or prescriptions, as long as the price was affordable, Yang Chen would basically agree. But the premise was that the transaction must include Chunyang Palace, so that Chunyang Palace could also get benefits. This time, the major sect appointed their core executives to lead the team to discuss with Yang Chen about the purchase of the prescription. In this way, Yang Chen's plan to further improve the broken limb regeneration pill became a bubble. Without waiting for Yang Chen to really enter the state of research, the palace master had personally come to discuss with Yang Chen how to deal with the major sect. In this regard, Yang Chen did not care too much. As long as the sect did not mind that the prescription was not complete enough, and it could also meet the conditions of Chunyang Palace and Yang Chen, then selling the prescription was not impossible. This attitude was also directly conveyed to the representatives of the major sect, and everyone was very satisfied with it. The first batch of representatives of the major sect that Yang Chen saw were the nearest 5 major Dao sections. In addition to the core executives of each of the 5 major Dao sects, they brought a few acquaintances of Yang Chen, the sect masters of the 5 major sect who ascended from the mortal world. The Profound Heaven sect did not have such favorable conditions, but in addition to a core elder that Yang Chen was familiar with, there was also a Heavenly Dipper Master, elderly. Every time, it was Yang Chen who took the initiative, so Chunyang Palace was also very happy to make a big profit. Basically, as long as it was not too excessive, the major sect always agreed to any request. The palace master was most satisfied with Yang Chen's disciple. He went from a third-rate sect master in the mortal world, who no one paid attention to a key figure that even the major sect had to compete to please, all because of this outstanding disciple. Chapter 2091. Everyone in Chunyang Palace had no idea that the appearance of the limb regeneration pill had allowed Chunyang Palace to quietly survive a crisis. Yang Chen's work of continuing to refine the perfect limb regeneration pill had been interrupted. He came out of seclusion to receive the representatives of the major sects. It was still the same as in the mortal world. The representatives of the Dao sects were the first to arrive. These were the family members of his wives and concubines, so Yang Chen received them very politely. It was fine to ask for medicinal pills, but in addition to the necessary price, they still needed to wait for a period of time. One had to know that what they wanted was not just a small number of 1 or 2,000. Each sect asked for more than 10,000. This was only the number requested by the Tao sects who arrived first. He believed that the demon race and devil sects who arrived later also needed a large number. Even if Yang Chun refined day and night without sleep, it would still take him hundreds of years to complete this number. It was definitely impossible to refine such a large number, so everyone's goal was the pill formula. Although Yang Chun repeatedly stressed that the pill formula was not perfect, these sects didn't care. Just like the disciples of Chunyang Palace, wasn't it just a matter of being stabbed again? The 8-revolution pill in the immortal world didn't need to be stabbed, but wasn't that something that would happen many years later? Moreover, how could these disabled cultivators be sure that they could ascend to the immortal world? Even if they ascended to the immortal world, there was no guarantee that they would be able to ask for medicinal pills. Yang Chun could only emphasize the difficulty of refining medicinal pills many times, and ordinary alchemists couldn't be qualified for it. However, this didn't stop the determination of the major sect to purchase the pill formula. Therefore, after paying a huge price, the representatives of the major sect returned to the sect with satisfaction with this pill formula that was not perfect in Yang Chen's eyes. This time, the representatives of the major sect came with the senior alchemists of the sect. After seeing the pill formula provided by Yang Chen, these alchemists understood that this was not something that they could refine alone. Fortunately, Yang Chen also considered this problem at the beginning, so those who used different fire seeds to refine and purify the flesh and blood of various regenerative creatures could be separated. In other words, an alchemist might only be good at one kind of fire seed and could only purify one kind of medicinal herb, but as long as a dozen or so alchemists met the requirements, they would be able to process all the medicinal herbs. Only the final alchemy step requires a very high-level and very powerful alchemist. This is not counting, a lot of 4C's mysterious coral liquid must be used in the refining. Fortunately, all the major sect were rich people. Although they did not dare to say that they could swim in the 4C's mysterious coral liquid like Yang Chen and Madame Bai, they could still take out a certain amount. There were many smart people in this world, especially cultivators. Yang Chen was not the only one who would use his herb garden to raise the 4C's mystic coral. Every sect left a huge price. Finally, Yang Chen calculated it. If it was discounted, he would have spent nearly 10 million genes of best quality spirit stones to buy space magic weapons for more than 20 years outside. This pill formula would earn back all the spirit stones that he had spent before. All the major sect was also interested in Yang Chen. Knowing that Yang Chen liked Space Immortals Cave during this time, each sect took out 1 or 2 sect-level Immortals Cave. This alone made Yang Chen so happy that he didn't know how to express it. If he had known this, he would not have gone out to search for Immortals Cave. It was enough to study this pill formula. Nearly 30 sect-level Immortals Cave exceeded all the Immortals Caves that Yang Chen had plundered in the past 20 years, except for the super-huge Immortals Cave. The Mountain River geographical map refined these Immortals Caves, and it was estimated that it could be close to the edge of quantitative change causing qualitative change. The only exception to this sect was the mysterious Heaven sect. Yang Chen received the representatives of each sect separately, and the mysterious Heaven sect was no exception. However, when the Core Elder and Big Elder Tian Gang appeared in front of Yang Chen was still taken aback. Big Elder Tian Gang was here, which meant that Sect Master Li was likely to have secretly come here. Sure enough, as Yang Chen expected, after completely shielding the surrounding possible detection with the formation, Sect Master Li appeared in front of Yang Chen. Yang Chen hurriedly saluted, then respectfully invited these elders to take their seats, personally served fragrant tea, and received them in a grand reception. Last time, Big Elder Tiangang gave the Immortal's cave to Yang Chen. Yang Chen did not put it in the Mountain River geographical map, but gave it to the Earth Dragon to integrate into his stomach immediately. Now everyone was in this Immortal's cave. Sect Master Li, Elder Li, and the other core elder obviously discovered this, and they were even more relieved. Especially Sect Master Li and Elder Li, the control means they left in the Immortal's cave were not removed at all, and they could still be used normally, which made them even more satisfied. Although this Immortal's cave was said to be a reward for Yang Chen, it was not without countermeasures. Now Yang Chen could generously use this Immortal's cave as the core mountain gate of Chunyang Palace, which showed that he had complete trust in them. This is the elixir recipe developed by this disciple. It is not very perfect. Please accept it, Master. In front of these people from the Mysterious Heaven sect, Yang Chen did not mention any price, and directly gave it to them. In addition, this is some elixir personally refined by this disciple. Master can give it to some of your fellow disciples who need it first. There were not many elixirs, only a few hundred, but it would take Yang Chen at least a year. For the filial piety of his disciple, Sect Master Li felt at ease. In his heart, he also felt the same as the palace master of Chunyang Palace. His cheap disciple really made him proud. Unfortunately, many things could not be made public, so he could only be secretly happy. This time, I came here mainly to see you. Your elixir recipe just gives me a good excuse. Elder Li's words were very comfortable to listen to. He obviously came for the elixir recipe, but he could say that he came to see Yang Chen. Otherwise, it would not be so convenient for this old man to leave the sect and come to you. This was the truth. Regardless of whether there was any relationship between Chunyang Palace and the Mysterious Heaven sect, it was not easy for the sect master of the Mysterious Heaven sect to come to Chunyang Palace. By the way, I also came to see how you are running the Chunyang Palace. This was also the purpose of Sect Master Li's visit. For so long, he had never seen what Chunyang Palace had become. This was secretly a subsidiary sect of the Mysterious Heaven sect, so there was nothing wrong with seeing the situation. I have heard about what happened to you over the years. Sect Master Li had been speaking. Of course, he had to do something for Yang Chen to vent his anger. The people who attacked you should be the Zhao family. Don't worry, they won't be able to jump around for a few days. The masters of the sect are almost about to find their lair, and the masters of the major sect have also coordinated, waiting for the final blow. Sect Master Li finally said the movements of the Mysterious Heaven sect over the years. Chapter 2092. Relying on the Zhao family manor, the Mysterious Heaven sect sent a group of experts into the core area to inquire about the whereabouts of the Zhao family's nest. Not only that, the Mysterious Heaven sect secretly united with the other major sects to let them send absolutely reliable disciples. They also used the Zhao family manor to send these people to the core of the trial ground. The Mysterious Heaven sect wasn't the only one who took risk. No one could think about falling behind. The Mysterious Heaven sect wasn't afraid of other sects stealing the credit. The biggest credit already belonged to the Mysterious Heaven sect, so the rest naturally had to be divided. On one hand, it was to reduce their own losses, and on the other hand, it was to give others a chance to show their face. After decades of searching, although the major sects hadn't accurately found the Zhao family's nest, they had been able to determine that it was in a certain area. The problem now was that there were more and more Xian, immortal monster beasts inside. The major sects didn't know how to deal with these monsters for a while. If they didn't deal with the monster beasts, once the Zhao family had some method to control the monster beasts and attacked them, the Zhao family would definitely suffer heavy losses. However, if they dealt with it, it would probably alarm the Zhao family. Now, everyone was having a headache over this problem. These were the top secrets of the Mysterious Heaven sect and the major sect. Those below the core management probably weren't qualified to know, but Sect Master Li didn't hesitate to tell Yang Chen about it. The other core management and Big Elder Big Dipper didn't think there was anything wrong with this. Actually, we shouldn't be the ones in a hurry right now, right? Yang Chen listened thoughtfully and said slowly after thinking for a while. Tell me about it. Sect Master Li also became spirited. He told Yang Chen about this because he wanted to hear some constructive opinions from Yang Chen's mouth. Although this disciple's cultivation wasn't very good, he was more suitable than countless people who were known to be scheming. In the Battle of the Three River Alliance, the Zhao family could be said to have suffered heavy losses. In the matter of the heart-refining pill, the Zhao family also lost a lot of core experts. Yang Chen wasn't polite and calmly analyzed in front of Sect Master Li. From the end of the heart-refining pill until now, the Zhao family hasn't planned any big actions. This can only mean their vitality is badly damaged, and they can't even take care of themselves. Sect Master Li continued to say. As he nodded, he followed Yang Chen's train of thought and continued to analyze. If it were me, if I had enough power at that time, I would definitely have attacked continuously, causing us to lose sight of one thing and lose sight of another. Since they are biding their time, it can only be said that they do not have enough strength. In fact, sect leader Li had already thought about this when he was in the sect, but when these things came out from Yang Chen's mouth, especially when the Battle of the Three River Alliance and the Battle of the Heart-Refining Pill happened under his planning, the sense of accomplishment was even stronger. Exactly. Master, you don't have to worry about those demonic beasts. Yang Chen hurriedly agreed with Sect Master Li's words and continued to analyze. No matter how powerful the method of controlling demon beasts is, there must be a prerequisite. There must be someone who can suppress the demonic beast. Sect Master Li and the Great Elder all agree with this. The weak want to control the powerful monster beast. If they don't show strength that is more powerful than the monster beast, will the crazy monster beast bow its head? What a joke. Since the seniors who have been inside over the years have not found the abnormal movements of the monster beasts, it means that the Zhao family is not in charge of this matter, or can't care about this matter. Yang Chen said with a smile, it is estimated that it has consumed a lot of resources of the Zhao family to let those monsters adapt to the heart-refining pill. Successive failures have made them unable to continue. At the thought of the overwhelming demon beasts raging demonic tribulation, and then thinking of the indifferent appearance of the monster after taking the heart-refining pill, it is impossible to say that there is no hard work of the Zhao family. Such a big effort is by no means a matter of using a little bit of resources. The matter of the Zhao family manor is not a top secret in the mortal world. I believe that the Zhao family should have thought of this problem by now. Yang Chen was not afraid to raise the wisdom of the Zhao family in front of Sect Master Li. The Zhao family can hide for so many years without being discovered. There must be smart children inside, and it is not surprising that they can think of the Zhao family manor. Since they have thought of it, but they are still indifferent, it is not that they are very confident in their own nest, that is. Yang Chen sold a little suspense, waiting for Sect Master Li to say the answer himself. They are not strong enough, and can only hide to protect themselves. Sect Master Li said what Yang Chen thought. When he spoke, it was as if he had thought of these things himself, and he was very proud. In fact, it was not that Sect Master Li had not thought of these things before, but he was not so sure. But when Yang Chen said it, it seemed that these things were obvious. There must be a master in the Zhao family, there is no doubt. Otherwise they would not have been able to refine the dragon puppet. Yang Chen was not afraid to say more frightening things, but what were these masters doing when the Zhao family suffered heavy losses? The Battle of the Heart-Refining Pill took place in the territory of the Zhao family, and they did not see their masters come out to save the battle. Either the masters have already ascended or… Yang Chen looked at Sect Master Li's eyes, waiting for him to say his own judgment. Or because of something or an accident, the masters are tied up. Sect Master Li's face also became dignified, and he said this guess. From another perspective, if we were the Zhao family and have masters but can't use them for the time being, what would we do? Yang Chen asked again. When we know that the opponent has the Zhao family manner that can enter their nest. Hide and wait for the masters to free up their hands. This time, it was not Sect Master Li who answered, but the core senior next to him. As a core senior of the Xiantian sect, it was impossible for him to not know anything, let alone not say a word at this kind of meeting. What are they most afraid of at this time? Yang Chen immediately asked. They are afraid of being discovered by us. That person immediately followed up. The masters can't free up their hands. Once they are discovered, they will suffer even more losses, and they may even be wiped out. Yang Chen nodded, turned to Sect Master Li and asked, "Forgive this disciple for being rude, but have those seniors who went in explored the core area?" Shaking his head, Sect Master Li frowned and replied, "The monsters inside are getting more and more powerful. They only went a little deeper, and they were almost discovered, so they didn't dare to go deeper. They have already seen monsters above the 8th grade of the mysterious immortal realm. Now, what can make the masters who refine the dragon puppets unable to free up their hands?" Yang Chen knew the answer in his heart, but he pretended not to know anything, and used his own words to enlighten the 3 senior members of the Xiantian sect. Also, where did those monsters come from? Yang Chen's enlightenment was too good, and Sect Master Li thought through a lot in an instant. Maybe we are too cautious. Chapter 2093. The one who strikes first gains the upper hand, and the one who strikes last suffers the calamity. In this kind of matter, the iron was the truth. The other party did not make a move, but his side was afraid to take action. This happened to Sect Master Li. It was simply unforgivable. Sect Master Li also had his own considerations. As the sect master of the mysterious heaven sect, he was sometimes even more authoritative than the kings and emperors of the mortal world. His every move involved countless lives. Without a complete plan, it was impossible to act rashly. If it weren't for Yang Chen's reminder, he might have ignored this obvious fact and decided to settle the score with the Zhao family in a steady and sure way. It wasn't that it was wrong to play it safe, but that everyone had overlooked an important factor. In the eyes of the major sect, the expert who had refined the dragon puppet should have ascended a long time ago. There shouldn't be such an expert in the current Zhao family. One had to know that the dragon puppet had been sealed for at least tens of thousands of years. After such a long time, could that expert still be here? Everyone was used to thinking this way, but they never thought about what would happen if he didn't ascend. If the dragon puppet could be sealed, then why couldn't this expert go into hibernation? Perhaps it wasn't the original expert, but someone who had grown up later, but that was still a great danger. The Zhao clan had always wanted to deal with the dragon puppet, and they always had a certain method to deal with it. It was unavoidably the work of that expert. Everything was afraid of a person who judged others by their own standard. When he put himself in the opponent's shoes, he would discover a terrifying truth. If they had such a terrifying expert, would they use him? There were only a few reasons why he couldn't use it in time. Either he was tied down by something, or he was in seclusion, or he needed to break the seal or hibernate array. So what if they knew there were enemies loitering around their nest? When the experts were free, they would kill them all. This won't do. I have to join forces with all the major sects and act together. Knowing that the matter was urgent, Sect Master Li couldn't stay any longer. Anyway, the prescription of the elixir had been obtained, and the main purpose of coming to Chunyang Palace had been achieved. There was no need to waste time. Wait a minute, Master. If we really hurt the Zhao clan to the point of being annihilated, what will we do when the experts of the Zhao clan come to us? Yang Chen hurriedly stopped him. Things had to be planned thoroughly. He couldn't let others think that he was tricking them. That would be bad. The Zhao clan has a trump card, but our Black Heaven sect is not one to be trampled upon. Sect Master Li didn't reveal much about this, but just gave Yang Chen a comforting sentence. I believe that all the major sects have similar arrangements, so you don't have to worry." For Yang Chen, these words were a pleasant surprise. He had learned that the mysterious Heaven sect still had a hidden trump card. This was a secret that no one could find out no matter how hard they tried. It was estimated that the major sects would not easily use this kind of ultimate force unless it was the most critical moment. Sect Master Li and the others didn't think of this for a while, but they forgot that the Zhao family should also have similar arrangements. Perhaps it was because of the mysterious Heaven sect's arrangements that they believed in Yang Chen's judgment. Otherwise, with Yang Chen's empty words and no evidence, how could they be trusted? What else can this disciple do to help? Master, please instruct me. Sect Master Li left, so of course, Yang Chen had to show his attitude and support Sect Master Li with all his might. You're very good. Sect Master Li patted Yang Chen on the shoulder and nodded approvingly. Very good. However, you don't need to make a move. You just need to share some of your good luck with us at all times. After that, Sect Master Li laughed heartily. The two elders next to him also laughed. In their eyes, Yang Chen, who was an Earth Immortal, really didn't need to make a move. Even if he could really fight, they would rather let Yang Chen refine pills than put Yang Chen in danger. Sect Master Li was also joking, but what he said wasn't a lie. Yang Chen's good luck has helped Sect Master Li several times in a row. One by one, it seemed that Yang Chen's shadow was in every major event. Discovering Yang Lan, the hidden spy, destroying the Zhao family's seal formation, getting the dragon puppet, the battle of the Three River Alliance, and discovering that there was a problem with the refining heart pill. Which of the major events that happened in the past 1,000 years could not be separated from Yang Chen? If this wasn't good luck, what else was good luck? As long as Yang Chen could always find problems in time and arrange in advance, there was no need for Yang Chen to make a move at all. There were plenty of people who could do it. But how many people could predict the enemy like Yang Chen? The people of the mysterious Heaven sect did not take Yang Chen's pill recipe for nothing. Although Yang Chen had already indicated that it was a free gift, the great elder still left Chunyang Palace with a price similar to that of other sects. This kind of deceptive move was to raise the price of Chunyang Palace, and to hide the relationship between the mysterious Heaven sect and Chunyang Palace. After sending away Sect Master Li and his party, Yang Chen relaxed. The previous words were almost to encourage Sect Master Li to make a move quickly. If the mysterious Heaven sect did not make a move, how could it draw more hatred from the Zhao family? Of course, Yang Chen did not forget to remind Yang Lan at the appropriate time. It was almost time to tell the Zhao family about the Zhao family manor. If Yang Lan operated well, he might be able to let the mysterious Heaven sect suffer a big loss and let Yang Lan make more contributions. Presumably, Yang Lan was very happy to let the mysterious Heaven sect suffer a big loss, which would make him sit firmly in the Zhao family, and at the same time, let him vent his hatred for the mysterious Heaven sect. The higher the position, the more secrets of the Zhao family he knew, and the more useful it would be for Yang Chen. It was a very contradictory feeling. Yang Chen wanted Yang Lan to die, but now he had to let him live. Sometimes, Yang Chen had to sigh that life was really temperamental and full of variables. If only one side kept winning, how could there be any balance? The major sect had already won 2 games, and it was almost time for them to lose. If the mysterious Heaven sect did not suffer a big loss, how could they force the mysterious Heaven sect to use their trump card? Yang Chen did not want to directly face a master at the golden immortal level or even stronger, so it was better to leave it to the top masters of the Zhao family to fight evenly. Yang Chen liked to borrow a knife to kill people, the sandpiper and clams fight. The mysterious Heaven sect was the first to set the price, and the sect behind them followed suit. They won the not-so-perfect recipe of Yang Chen's broken limb regeneration pill under similar conditions and left with satisfaction. It was believed that in the near future, there would be less than 80% of cultivators with physical disabilities in the spiritual world. The difficulty of refining the broken limb regeneration pill once again surprised all the alchemists who knew the recipe. It couldn't be helped. Except for Yang Chen, none of them could successfully refine this pill alone. Fortunately, Yang Chen was kind enough to allow more than a dozen alchemists to cooperate with each other. As soon as the broken limb regeneration pill appeared, it immediately replaced the marrow accumulation pill and became the most difficult pill to refine in the spiritual world. Chapter 2094. Everything seemed to be within Yang Chen's expectations. Aside from the Zhao clan's schemes that Yang Chen did not know about, everything else was under his control. However, there was one thing that made Yang Chen not know whether to laugh or cry. It was the limb regeneration pill. What surprised Yang Chen was that the ones who chased after the limb regeneration pill the most were not cultivators but a group of people in the mundane world. The eunuchs who served the emperors and the imperial harem in the various countries' palaces, also known as the eunuchs, were eager to obtain the limb regeneration pill. Ever since the name of the limb regeneration pill spread to the mundane world, it became a sacred item for the eunuchs of the various countries. The wish of countless eunuchs was to obtain a limb regeneration pill before they died so that they could be buried with a complete corpse. Many eunuchs with power and influence were willing to pay several times or even tens of times more than cultivators to obtain a limb regeneration pill. This even led to a trend of cultivators reselling the limb regeneration pill to earn spirit stones. It was only after Yang Chen ascended and those cultivators discovered the value of the limb regeneration pill that things calmed down. This was a story for the future and would not be discussed for now. After sending off the various sect representatives, Yang Chen welcomed another joyous matter. Ao Lan and Ao Lai brought a few friends over to Yang Chen's side. These friends did not show themselves. Even Ao Lan and Ao Lai secretly sent a signal to Yang Chen. Yang Chen received them directly from the Dragon Palace. Aside from the dragon race, what else could Ao Lan and Ao Lai's friends be? Yang Chen received these dragon race experts who did not have the surname Ao in a very grand manner. They were all dragons and as proud as Ao Lan and Ao Lai. From their voices, Xiao Chen could tell that there were 4 men and 2 women. It had to be said that the dragon race experts were indeed dragon race expert. When they wanted to hide their cultivation, even Yang Chen would not be able to tell. At the very least, he would not be able to tell within a short period of time. However, this did not prevent Yang Chen from receiving them very warmly. The 6 dragon race experts were not surprised to see Yang Chen's 5-element dragon palace. They probably already knew a lot from Ao Lan. Only when they occasionally glanced at the dragon pagoda would there be a trace of covetousness and envy. One of the golden dragons looked at the golden dragon palace and snorted. He must have gotten the golden dragon palace from him. The 6 dragon race experts did not say anything. Ao Lan spoke for them. It seemed that they weren't very happy. Maybe it was because Yang Chen had left the dragon in twining grass and plundered so many dragon palaces? Ao Lan did not beat around the bush and directly explained that these 6 friends came to Yang Chen's place to overcome the restraints of the dragon coiling grass. They needed Yang Chen's help. These dragon race cultivators, including Ao Lan and Ao Lai, all followed the teachings of their ancestors. They wanted to kill all the dragon coiling grass. As a result, aside from Yang Chen's side, they could not find any dragon coiling grass to temper themselves. Left with no other choice, they could only look for Yang Chen again. In reality, Ao Lan was also selfish. Although the dragon coiling grass was powerful, it was much weaker than the jade dragon coiling blood demonic vine. Since Ao Lan had already decided to go against the teachings of their ancestors to overcome the dragon coiling grass, why not find a powerful opponent to temper himself more fully? Of course, Yang Chen welcomed them with open arms. Not to mention that the dragon race owed him a favor. The more friends he had, the more paths he could take. Just the benefits that Sun Qingxue, Abai, and his blood demonic vine flying sword would obtain from these 6 dragon race experts made Yang Chen look forward to it. How dare you seize so many magic treasures of my dragon race? He didn't know where Yang Chen was not pleasing to the eye. A master of the dragon clan suddenly opened his mouth and asked Yang Chen very impolitely. The moment he said this, the atmosphere became tense. Yang Chen casually glanced at Aolan. Aolan was expressionless. Aolai was holding the wine jar and drinking by himself. He rolled his eyes and did not look at that guy at all. However, the gloating smile at the corner of his mouth betrayed his current mood. Aolai knew how powerful Yang Chen was. He knew that Aolan would not be able to gain an advantage in front of Yang Chen. He was definitely not laughing at Yang Chen. Then, he must be laughing at this rude guy. There was no need to ask. The dragon race was not a monolithic piece. Yang Chen had seen this kind of thing many times. However, this guy was still so arrogant in his own territory. No matter what, he had to be taught a lesson. Good luck, good luck. Yang Chen replied with a smile, as if he did not hear the serious dissatisfaction in Aolan's words. No matter how powerful your cultivation is, it cannot be compared to good fortune. Good luck is on your head, and this meat pie from the sky fell on your head. If you don't take it, you will be punished by heaven. If you do not have a diamond in the rough, do not take up porcelain work. Do you know that an ordinary man's wealth is his own ruin? Yang Chen's attitude was somewhat mischievous. This made that dragon race expert very dissatisfied. He said angrily, "If you do not have the strength, then don't take that fat piece of meat. If the meat pie is too heavy, it might smash your head and kill you." That is true, that is true. Yang Chen appeared to have learned something. He nodded his head in agreement and said, "What you said is very true. The Dragon Palace and the Dragon Race's magic treasures are not something a human junior like you can enjoy." When that Dragon Race expert saw that Yang Chen's words were rather pertinent, his tone softened. "You are a person with bad luck. Don't force yourself. Hand it over, and I can overlook the blasphemy you have done to the Dragon Race's magic treasures. I do not have any objections." Anyone who heard such words would be filled with rage. However, Yang Chen acted like he did not hear the insult in those words. He said sloppily, "However, there is someone who does not allow it. I have no choice but to endure it." "Who is it that is supporting you?" Of course, that Dragon Race expert could tell what Yang Chen meant. He smiled coldly and asked, "Why don't you call it out for me to see?" As that Dragon Race expert spoke, he glared at Aolan. Aolan copied Aolai. However, he did not hold a wine jar. Instead, he elegantly held a wine cup. When that Dragon Race expert saw Aolan looking over, he immediately shook his head, indicating that he was not supporting Yang Chen. Seeing Aolan like this, that Dragon Race expert relaxed. If they were to compare, Aolan actually had a fortuitous encounter in the past few years. His strength improved greatly, and he was not someone they could match up to. As long as Aolan did not participate, this junior did not need to care. "Yes, it is good to talk." Yang Chen nodded. His expression remained calm. "However, we are all friends. We cannot damage our friendship." As Aolan spoke, he pointed to a figure on the other side and said, "There. That's him." After saying that, Yang Chen walked over to Aolan's side. He smiled bitterly and said, "Big sister, can't you do it yourself to teach a disobedient person a lesson?" Chapter 2095. Bullying the Weak? What is the point of that? Aolan took a small sip of wine. Then, she said with a smile, "You will benefit from helping Big Sister this time. Of course, it is not a problem if there are benefits." Yang Chen was so happy that he could barely keep his eyes open. He nearly laughed out loud and said, "Teach him a lesson to what extent? Beat him half to death? Or break his limbs? I just came up with a medicinal pill for regrowing limbs. Should we try it on the Dragon Race?" There is no need to be so ruthless. Just give him a blow and grind down his character, Aolon said softly. The conversation between the two did not leak out at all. Aolon had the ability to do so. While Yang Chun and Aolon were speaking, the dragon race experts were not paying attention to them. Instead, they were looking in the direction Yang Chun pointed. There was no need for Big Brother Li Cheng to make a move to teach a proud dragon race cultivator who did not know the immensity of heaven and earth a lesson. Lin Jingyuan was sufficient. In the eyes of the 6 dragon clan masters, there was an idiot who was drooling and holding an unknown cooked leg in one hand and a complete round ball in the other. He was gnawing on the meat while thinking about something. Suddenly the place changed. Just as Lin Jingyuan was feeling suspicious, he suddenly saw Yang Chen. Then, he immediately smiled. For so many years, Yang Chen's family had brought him good food, drinks, and fun. Even an idiot would remember a few familiar faces. When Lin Jingyuan saw a familiar person, he would not say anything. He would only smile foolishly. When that dragon race expert discovered that Yang Chen had brought out a fool to humiliate him, he immediately became enraged. He roared and was about to make a move. However, before that dragon race expert could make a move, a human figure suddenly appeared before him. That person grabbed the cooked leg of an unknown animal and swung it at that dragon race expert. Lin Jingyuan had been sealed by his father. Even Yang Chen could only guess his cultivation. He had not actually observed it. He could not see Lin Jingyuan with his spiritual sense, either. The dragon race only thought that Yang Chen was trying to disgust them. How could they have imagined that this idiot-like fellow was actually a peerless master? At this time, it was too late to dodge. The arrogant dragon clan expert could only quickly shrink his head back to avoid the attack. He couldn't care less about anything else. His head was spared, but his stomach was kicked heavily. The strength contained in this kick was so great that it sent the dragon clan expert flying along with his chair. Pring, the dragon's body, which was several tens of feet long, perfectly displayed the ultimate skill of wall painting in front of everyone. It was just that the painting was of the dragon itself, and he had long lost consciousness, knocked out by a kick. Aolon and Aolai seemed to have anticipated all this. They sat on their chairs and drank their wine, not moving at all. However, the 5 dragon race experts stood up at the same time, preparing to attack. Be careful. The chair is not money. Yang Chen's voice rang out from the side. It sounded like he was berating Lin Jingyuan. However, he was holding something that looked like a piece of soft candy that he bought from somewhere and handed it to Lin Jingyuan. Then, he took the leg from Lin Jingyuan's hands and said, "Eat this. Your leg is cold. Eat slowly." When did Yang Chen appear at Lin Jingyuan's side? Several masters had no idea. Looking at this scene, they were all shocked and finally realized that Yang Chen, this junior, was by no means so simple. In front of Yang Chen, Lin Jingyuan was as obedient as a cat. The dragon race experts were stunned when they saw this. Earlier, Yang Chen's tone when he berated Lin Jingyuan was as if he was reprimanding Lin Jingyuan like a child. How could such a strong expert be so obedient? Be good. Next time, don't break the chair. Yang Chen coaxed Lin Jingyuan with a childlike tone. Lin Jingyuan was beaming with joy. He happily held the soft candy and jumped for a while. No one knew where he went. They could not find him even with their divine senses. The sitting dragon race experts looked at each other and exchanged a few glances. However, no one said anything. They did not even pay attention to their companion who was sent flying. Please don't take it to heart. The child is not sensible. Please don't take it to heart. Yang Chen's words were as hateful as they could be. However, the dragon race experts did not dare to look at him as a junior anymore. Until now, these 5 dragon race experts could still sit still. Obviously, they were not the hothead from before. In Yang Chen's side, there was no one who was unconvinced. The hothead of the dragon race in the spiritual realm should be Aolai. However, Wasn't he still sitting there obediently without moving and not saying a word? This child is also lucky. I picked him up. He is quite pitiful without an adult by his side. Yang Chen mentioned good luck again as soon as he opened his mouth. It was exactly the same as what he said not long ago. However, the mood of the obedient experts was already very different. The Dragon Palace was full of spiritual power. Under Yang Chen's instructions, Lin Jingyuan did not use too much force. He was only knocked unconscious. When he slipped from the wall to the ground, the arrogant dragon race had already woken up. He happened to hear Yang Chen's words. These words were simply a naked slap in his face. He could not avoid it no matter what. He could only pretend that he did not hear it. What? The dragon race is such a noble race. How can there be someone who can't afford to lose? How could Yang Chen let him escape so easily? He had already noticed his embarrassment. However, he still ruthlessly tore off his pitiful self-esteem. He still had the same smiling expression and tone as before. He asked the poor expert who had not yet gotten up. Who said that the dragon race can't afford to lose? When he heard that Yang Chen actually escalated the whole issue to the dragon race, he immediately jumped up to defend. I admit that I am not that expert's opponent. So what? Then you can only watch as I desecrate the dragon race's Dharma treasures and dragon palace. You can only watch but not say anything. Yang Chen spread his hands and shrugged his shoulders. He expressed his helplessness. Although I am unlucky, my luck is still very good. You! The arrogant dragon race expert was furious. However, he could not do anything in the face of Yang Chen's attitude. He had deliberately said these words to humiliate Yang Chen. Now that his own words were used to slap his face, there was no way he could refute. Could it be that Yang Chen agreed with what he said? What's more, he had been defeated by Lin Jingyuan. Every single word Lin Jingyuan said was like a slap to his face. So many people? Yang Chen, have you finished refining the elixir? Just as the arrogant expert was suppressing his anger, a voice that was familiar to Yang Chen suddenly came from the Dragon Palace. Quickly ask Ah Ling to make something delicious and ask Little Shui to send wine over. I am so hungry. There was a sense of intimacy in the voice. It was Yang Chen's sworn brother, Li Cheng. Who dares to speak so casually? The arrogant expert was worried that he did not have a target to vent his anger on. When he heard Li Cheng's disrespectful voice, he immediately attacked in anger. Chapter 2096. When the long dragon body fiercely pounced on Big Brother Li Cheng, Yang Chen could only look at the master of the dragon clan with a kind of admiration in his eyes. He sincerely stretched out his two thumbs and raised them high, and sincerely said 10,000 words of admiration. It was one thing to say all this in front of Big Brother Li Cheng. Big Brother was a magnanimous person. As long as he apologized promptly and said some soft words, Big Brother Li Cheng would definitely not take offense. Have you ever seen a lion care about the nonsense of an ant? If they were not on the same level, they would not even bother to look at them. However, this fellow was probably muddle-headed. To think that he actually dared to attack Big Brother Li Cheng. Yang Chen even had the urge to pull Big Sister Ao Lan to his side and question her loudly. Did you bring a brain? Do you know how to write the word death? Big Brother Li Cheng killed tens of thousands of crazy, profound, immortal demonic beasts by himself more than 1,000 years ago. Now, his cultivation is even higher than before. Back then, he was only an earthly immortal. Now, Big Brother Li Cheng is a heavenly immortal. Even if Big Sister Ao Lan makes a move, she might not have an advantage over Big Brother Li Cheng. You are just an insignificant, profound, immortal expert of the dragon race. When Lin Jingyuan made a move earlier, Yang Chen could basically determine his cultivation. He was only a peak profound immortal, not a golden immortal. Judging from the behavior of the experts from the Dragon Clan, this arrogant and unruly fellow should be the worst of them all. Of course, this did not include Ao Lai. Aolai was definitely not someone who would not submit. Bang! An extremely simple sound rang out, and a long figure streaked across the huge hall. Once again, it came into contact with the wall. The painting was still hung in the same way as before. It was just that it took longer than before. A small loach dares to bare its teeth at a cat or dog. Are you tired of living? Big Brother Li Cheng's walking posture did not change at all. It was still the same speed and pace. He looked slow but very natural. As he walked, he did not forget to tease Aolan. Mister, this is a junior of my race. He is not sensible and offended, mister. I hope mister will not take offense. Aolan, who was at the side, was startled. He quickly bowed to his elder brother Li Cheng, apologizing on behalf of the Dragon Race Juniors. I will definitely punish him severely. He will not dare to be rude to mister again. Although Aolan had not seen how powerful Li Cheng was, Li Cheng gave her an indescribable sense of pressure from the moment he appeared. Only a peak golden immortal like Aolan could sense this pressure. The other experts from the Dragon Clan simply assumed that Li Cheng was just an ordinary heavenly immortal expert. That thorn in his clan actually attacked Li Cheng without distinguishing between right and wrong. This was a great taboo. Let's not talk about Li Cheng's cultivation. For every grievance there was a perpetrator, and for every debt there was a debtor. You couldn't stand the sight of Yang Chen being taught a lesson, so you went to look for Yang Chen. Why did you find someone else to vent your anger on? If he didn't change this bad habit, he didn't know how many disasters it would bring to the Dragon Clan and how many fatal disasters it would bring to himself. It's all right, it's all right. Li Cheng waved his hand, not standing on ceremony. Then, he sat down on the chair beside Yang Chen. Then, he gestured for Aolan to sit down as well, not needing to stand. Young people need to be taught when they are not sensible. All we need to do is make them more sensible. At this moment, the Dragon Race expert with the painting on the wall slid down to the ground. Then, he regained his consciousness. The moment Aolan woke up, she heard Li Cheng's prideful words. However, Aolan felt like she had been taught a lesson. Her heart ached and she even felt like dying. What's wrong with me today? Aolan looked at Yang Chen in a different light. Then, she said a few unpleasant words and got taught a lesson by a fool who came out of nowhere. Just as she wanted to find someone to vent her anger on, she ran into an early-stage heavenly immortal junior. Furthermore, this person appeared at Yang Chen's place. Furthermore, his tone sounded very familiar. He was definitely in cahoots with Yang Chen and was not a good person. However, the moment Aolan attacked, he knew that things were not good. He was knocked unconscious and sent flying. This was simply a great humiliation. However, Aolan was not brainless. Right now, even a fool knew that he was not a match for that Li Cheng. If he charged forward, he would just be seeking his own humiliation. Aolan was rash and hot-blooded, but he was not a fool. For a moment, this junior of the Dragon Race was filled with doubts about himself. Wasn't the Dragon Race an innately superior race, superior to all other races? They were born with strong strength. Be it human cultivators or fiend cultivators, they were unrivaled in the Dragon Race within the same cultivation realm. Why did I lose to a human cultivator whose cultivation I could not make out first? Then, I lost to a heavenly immortal human cultivator? Could it be that the legends of the Dragon Race were wrong? Long Yuan, why are you not coming over and apologizing to this mister? Long Yuan still felt that this was an unlucky year. On the other side, Aolan could not help but scold him. If it were in the past, Long Yuan would not have been convinced by Aolan's instructions. This was especially so since Aolan addressed that Yang Chen as brother and sister. Long Yuan would not have been willing to lower his head to Yang Chen. However, now that he was apologizing to the expert who dealt with him in one move, Long Yuan felt less conflicted. Long Yuan was rude and offended. Mister, please forgive me. Long Yuan apologized to Li Qing with a red face. Like Ao Lan, he apologized. The strong were always respected. When Long Yuan bowed to Li Qing, he did not dare to be perfunctory. Yes, yes. Children should learn to be more polite in the future. I'll let it go this time. Li Qing still had that relaxed expression. He waved his hand, accepting Long Yuan's apology. Now, Yang Chen knew Long Yuan's name. This fellow's surname was Long, and he was not a member of the royal family. The others probably had the same surname. After all, there were very few members of the royal family with the surname Ao. Yang Chen, although I am not a match for this mister, this does not mean that you have the qualifications to forcibly take possession of my dragon race's magic treasure. Long Yuan seemed to want to show that he was able to let go of things. Otherwise, Yang Chen would say that he was a sore loser. However, he was still unconvinced by Yang Chen. Unless you can defeat me, I will take back my dragon race's magic treasure one day. Who dares to be rude to my clan's husband? Long Yuan had just said that when an incomparably cold voice rang out beside his ear. After turning towards the direction of the voice, he immediately saw a beautiful female cultivator with a frosty face. She stood there like an unsheathed sword, faintly giving off a feeling of sword light. It seemed that she was trying hard to suppress it but was unable to do so. The female cultivator was only an earthly immortal. With one glance, Shao Chen could tell that she had just refined her life-flying sword. She had yet to fully control it, unable to control its sword intent. In other words, she was a novice cultivator. Could she be the descendant of a profound immortal expert who had just started cultivating? Long Yuan immediately felt displeased. He could not see through Lin Jingyuan's cultivation level and Li Qing's heavenly immortal cultivation level. It was one thing, but she, a mere earthly immortal junior, dared to be so insolent? She had just called Yang Chen husband. Was Yang Chen's woman only at this level? Chapter 2097. How dare you! Long Yuan shouted and planned to teach Yang Chen a lesson for this disobedient woman who jumped out to talk to him. Be it in terms of age or seniority, Long Yuan felt that he was qualified to do so. Shi Shanshan had a cold temperament to begin with. Ever since she followed Yang Chen, she became more amiable in front of Yang Chen. However, she was not someone that anyone could just run out and berate. Other than her elders and husband, who could make Shi Shanshan lower her head. Furthermore, even if it was her sect elders, how many of them dared to berate her after her husband stood up for her in the mortal world? As for her husband, he doted on her every day. How could he bear to berate her like this? All the guests present were from the dragon race. They were probably brought here by Big Sister Ao Lan. However, Big Sister Ao Lan did not say anything. This fellow actually dared to speak ill of her husband behind his back. How could Shi Shanshan, who had just come out of seclusion, tolerate this? Without saying anything, Shi Shanshan had already made her move. A beam of sword qi pierced towards Long Yuan. She did not care about the identity of these people that she did not know. Anyway, as long as they were rude to her husband, they were all enemies. Well, except for Big Brother Li Qing. If Big Brother Li Qing berated her husband, it would definitely be for his own good. Shi Shanshan also had a balance in her heart. Shi Shanshan's sword qi changed slightly. It was white in color and shaped like a sword. Yang Chen could tell with one look that it was the shape of a pure yang immortal sword. It looked like Shi Shanshan had already completed the initial step of refining the pure yang immortal sword into the life-saving flying sword. Otherwise, such a change would not have happened. Furthermore, when facing a Xian immortal expert, Shi Shanshan did not go limp. This meant that Shi Shanshan's control over sword qi was even more perfect. When the people of the Dragon Clan saw Shi Shanshan's sword qi, they all sat on the fishing platform. Except for Ao Lan and Ao Lai, who showed a worried look in their eyes, the other guests, including Long Yuan, didn't care about this trivial sword qi. Not to mention that Long Yuan's cultivation was much higher than Shi Shanshan's. Even if they were at the same cultivation realm, an ordinary flying sword would not be able to harm the dragon race at all, let alone sword qi. The toughness of the dragon race's scales and flesh was not something that ordinary human cultivators could imagine. Long Yuan even sneered in his heart. He planned to stand on the spot and take the sword qi head-on, teaching this proud and arrogant woman an unforgettable lesson for life. Of course, he also left some face for Yang Chen, which was also to earn back a little dignity for himself. The two blows just now had knocked away Long Yuan's arrogance. Yang Chen had hidden dragons and crouching tigers here, so he had to pay attention to his words in the future. In the blink of an eye, Yang Chen knew what Long Yuan was up to. If it was an ordinary earthly immortal cultivator, Yang Chen wouldn't be worried at all. But what kind of sword qi did his wife cultivate? Ancestor Lu Dongbin's supreme pure yang sword qi was an invincible existence in the immortal world. How could a mere profound immortal like Long Yuan withstand it? Are you tired of living? Yang Chen wasn't too far away from Long Yuan. Given the urgency of the situation, he couldn't care less about anything else. With a loud shout, he grabbed one of Long Yuan's dragon claws and pulled it to the side. Yang Chen's movements were fast, but Long Yuan's mind was even faster. He had just suffered two huge setbacks. This time, no matter what, he had to turn things around. He had also heard Yang Chen's voice. He understood that Yang Chen's pull was not considered impolite. Instead, he wanted him to avoid the sword qi. But if Long Yuan was really pulled away by Yang Chen, how would he still have any face left? Long Yuan's expression didn't change as he secretly executed the dragon race's immovable mountain technique. Once he executed this technique, not to mention an earthly immortal cultivator, even big sister Aolan, who was a peak golden immortal, would have to spend a lot of effort to touch him. Long Yuan's plan was to make Yang Chen's pull fail. At the same time, he would forcefully withstand this sword qi. This would also let the couple know that there was always someone better out there. However, just as he executed the immovable mountain technique, an irresistible force came from the dragon claw that Yang Chen grabbed. It directly pulled Long Yuan's body up and flew to the side. Not only that, but Long Yuan also realized that in his current state, it was as if he had been thrown to the side by Yang Chen. But no matter how much Long Yuan struggled, or how much he wanted to break free from Yang Chen's grip, it was to no avail. The immovable mountain technique seemed to have failed on him. Looking at Yang Chen's appearance, it didn't seem like he was lifting something heavy. Instead, it seemed like he was lifting a small loach effortlessly. Long Yuan's body was flung away by Yang Chen's strength, becoming a long tail. As for Long Yuan, he was like a snake whose backbone had been flung away. He didn't move at all. The situation was extremely shocking. Yang Chen's eyes and hands were fast, but he wasn't as fast as Shi Shanshan's sword qi. She managed to gain some advantage in terms of distance, and managed to pull Long Yuan's body away in time. However, because Long Yuan's body was too long, he wasn't able to take care of his long tail. Just as he was flung away due to inertia, the sword qi made contact with his tail. Qi. A soft sound rang out. Long Yuan's tail, which he thought was as hard as iron, was penetrated by a small hole. The sword qi's momentum had yet to dissipate as it flew towards the distant wall of the dragon palace. Yang Chen's hand let go of Long Yuan's dragon claws in time. His figure flashed and he appeared on the path of the sword qi. He reached out and grabbed the sword qi in the shape of a flying sword in his hand. This move stunned Aolan, Aolai, and the other dragon race cultivators. Although Shi Shanshan's sword qi had condensed into the flying sword qi, it was still sword qi and didn't have a physical body. How did Yang Chen grab it? What shocked them even more was that the sword qi that pierced through Long Yuan's tail actually didn't hurt Yang Chen at all when it reached Yang Chen's hand. Everyone could clearly see that the sword qi had pierced Yang Chen's hand without any deviation. Could it be that Shi Shanshan was able to control the sword chi freely and withdraw it in time? That was impossible. Even now, Shi Shanshan was still standing in her original spot, trying her best to withdraw the sword light on her body. How could someone with such a cultivation realm be able to control the sword chi to such an extent? Yang Chen didn't care about everyone's astonishment. He grabbed the sword chi and gripped it tightly. The flying sword chi was easily scattered by Yang Chen's hand. It quickly disappeared into the air without a trace. However, Yang Chen's hand was as clean as new. There wasn't a single wound on it. It was only at this moment that Long Yuan's body involuntarily flew to the other side of the Dragon Palace. With a pause sound, it became an unfurled scroll once again. Only now did 2 streams of blood spurt out from Long Yuan's tail. Then, the pain started to spread to Long Yuan's mind.